record the German making excuses for being late, please?
Oh, I'm definitely
No, the world will still think we Germans are always on time.
That's YouTube gold.
no. Heiko, you're consistent in that you're always a little bit late, and that's good.
Yeah, always. Yeah,
always.
Yeah, right.
That's German consistency. So
Yeah.
what are you drinking there, Heiko?
Correct. You can. It's a beer from our area here, or at least near. It's a Schlappeseppel.
All right. Okay.
It's from. Yeah, it's not far away from here. I don't know how to translate Schlappeseppel.
You know what a slapper means in
It's like
UK
you
slang?
know.
You see, in England,
Slapper. Bob will tell you what a slapper means.
Yeah, in England, a slapper is a prostitute. This is K, by the way.
Okay. No, but it's Schlappe. Yeah.
Oh, that's
nice to meet you, Kay.
Hi, nice to meet you, Heike. You too.
Actually, you know, this is in Hessian German. This is a Schlappe. You know,
okay.
what you're wearing on your feet. And Seppel is kind of a nickname for people with the name Joseph. So
okay.
You know, people, yeah. So, and Schlappeseppel is just, you know, Joseph with this kind of shoe. I don't know, but it's good. It's good beer. So
yeah. Well,
cheers.
that. There you go. Look, yeah, that's.
I don't drink any alcohol, so
Oh,
for me, it's free.
there you go.
What do you have there?
Yeah, Balvenie.
Balvenie.
Yeah, it's lovely.
That's nice.
It's from Banffshire, isn't it? Yeah, up north. So yeah. Cheers.
Cheers to all of you.
You too.
Yes.
Well, it's just the four of us, I'm afraid.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It's good company.
Heiko, where in Germany are you based?
Very close to Frankfurt.
I will pass you tomorrow because I'm halfway from Czech Republic. I'm in Nuremberg tonight on my way to Belgium. I was stopped by the police to check for my negative COVID test.
Okay, so you from Nuremberg, you drive to Czech Republic. So you drive
I'm coming back from Czech Republic.
Are you coming back? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I'll be close
So
to
actually, we are the direct neighbor city. So across the river, there's Frankfurt, and we are south of the river, and both of our towns are like, you know, all-time big rivals since ever. They were already rivals in the medieval times.
Yeah.
That's like where I'm from, Newcastle. So Newcastle hates Sunderland. So that's a big rivalry as well. Zane probably knows about this. Newcastle and Sunderland, because Newcastle are Geordies, and in the south, in Sunderland, you've got what we call Mackhams. You've heard this, haven't you, Zane?
Yeah. My best pal in Glasgow. My best pal in Glasgow is a Geordie. And I keep winding him up. He's a Mackham because he's from south of Newcastle. He's from the south part of the city. He's from over the bridge. He's not a Geordie. No. North side of the river only. You're a Mackham if you're south.
Isn't this interesting? Isn't this interesting that century-old feuds still exist in our current culture, and we don't even remember why, but they're still there. We have it with the Dutch. The Belgians and the Dutch have the same thing, like the Flemish and the Dutch. We have some very old thing going on, and it's still there. And it's quite funny how these things remain. The Swedish have it with the Finnish, and it can be between towns or other sides of barriers and stuff. And it still remains, even though these battles are long gone. But it's still in the common memories. So it's quite interesting how these things stay.
But the good thing is that it is only fun rivalries now. So
Yes.
no
Yes.
war, no battles anymore, except maybe football or other sports.
Yeah, football. That's the one. That's where the violence appears, usually anyway. With football.
Yeah, unfortunately, still, yeah.
But only small groups. They're not huge groups. So they're fairly small groups of people who want to fight about football, and most of them can't fight anyway, not properly.
Yeah, but I think Russian hooligans and Polish hooligans nowadays are quite well organized and training and very strict.
Yeah.
So I've read an article that this is the reason why in one of the last big, I think, World Cup or European Cup a couple of years ago, some English fans and hooligans were quite smashed. I think it was in Spain,
right?
Where they were hunting English fans through the town, and then these Russian hooligans, they are anti-alcohol, anti-drugs, and they are quite of, seeing themselves as Spartan warriors, training hard in some MMA or boxing gym, and kind of organized hooligans without alcohol and drugs. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, they didn't understand what British football hooliganism was. They
Yes,
really
right.
thought we were training for it.
Yeah.
No. We were just training in the pub for it.
Yeah.
I sent you a video, Bob.
Yeah, I can see that. I've just seen it in chat. I'm going to save that for later. Yeah, brilliant.
Have you seen that?
What is it?
It's the old song. I only came across the video because I like folk music.
Right.
And it's an old Newcastle folk song.
Was that the
Biker Hill and Walker Shore? Ben?
What's it called?
It's Biker Hill and Walker Shore. And it's about the miners and the guys that worked on the canal.
Oh, okay.
But
I've not seen that. No.
The guys made a video of it.
Yeah.
Using British Path footage that's very, very old.
Right.
And they're clearly doing what looks like some kind of sword dance in it. It looks like one of the minor villages.
Yeah.
And they're they're dancing with like they're flat steel things.
Right.
And they make like the Star of David.
Oh,
and they're holding it above their heads and dancing round and breaking apart.
Yeah.
It's like a cross, but it's almost like Morris dancing with swords.
Oh, right.
I've seen a medieval picture of them making that Star of David thing above their heads with the swords. But in the medieval picture I saw, they were stood on it. Somebody was stood on the frame they kind of made.
Yeah. Now, I think when you were talking about the Star of David, the flat blades, I have seen something. I don't know. I don't think it's this video on YouTube, but I definitely remember something like that. Now, whether that's something I've seen as a kid or whether it's something I've seen on TV in a documentary or something, I don't know. But I'll have a look at that, Zane. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Well, it's interesting because it must have preceded. I mean, the video can't be much older than 1930s. It must be like, I'd imagine 1940s to 1930s. It can't be much earlier.
Right.
So it must have, if it is sword dancing, it must have persisted up by you right until then.
Yeah.
So it'd be really interesting to know when it stopped.
Yeah. Well, the single stick tradition lasted in England till quite late, the 30s and 40s, really, didn't it? I mean, there's some evidence that, people were still, training in single stick in the 60s and 70s, but not in many places, I believe.
Right.
So, single stick and sword are one and the same thing, more or less. Well, I think Heiko would probably know more about it than me, but from what I've read, certainly with the English single stick tradition.
I've got a photo of one of the guys from our regiment in Paisley.
Oh, right.
At the 1915, they did a Highland Games in Bedfordshire because
Bedfordshire.
Yeah, because the 51st Highlanders were sent down
right.
there.
Okay. Yeah.
So they were barracked there just before they were sent to the Somme. And they did Highland Games, and there were a number of other Scottish regiments in the area who sent teams. And there's some beautiful photographs of them doing the single stick.
Oh, right. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's kind of a really famous photograph. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that Highland Games in Bedfordshire.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It couldn't be further away. Well, it's the Midlands anyway. It's the Midlands, isn't it?
They were sent down there because they were scared the horrible Germans were going to invade. And they didn't know South Coast or East Coast. So they sent them to Bedfordshire so they could go to be a reserve force for either.
Right. Oh, God. Well, you're going to have Highland Games everywhere now. Everywhere you go, there's Highland Games.
Yeah, we have Highland Games in Germany.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's mad.
And Lowland Games, yeah.
Do you not have them in Belgium?
No, we have some kind of, some kind of Highland game thing once a year where they throw logs and stuff like that. It's quite popular. It's quite popular. People like this stuff. It's like a very manly thing, but it's less popular the last few years. It was more popular before.
Do you know how they score the caber, tossing the caber?
Isn't it the angle at which it lands?
Yeah, the angle.
Yeah, the angle at which it lands. Yeah.
Yeah, it's who does it. It's like ice skating. It's who does it most beautifully.
Yeah.
I just laugh when you say it's so manly because it does look really manly, but you're getting marked on how beautifully you do it. and how nice, do they mark you on your kilt? How nice your kilt is, and whether you're wearing anything under it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You have to at the Highland Games.
Do they make you wear it? Seriously, at the Highland Games? Are you sure?
You have to wear underwear. There have been too many accidents. The funniest.
There is one photo, Zane, you sent it to me. There is a photo where you told me when I was asking you what I wear under the kilt when I do backhold wrestling, and you said you definitely wear underpants and make sure you don't wear boxer shorts, because there's one picture you see the guy is in the air flying and you can look under his kilt and you see he has boxer shorts and his big hairy balls are looking out of the leg. You can see them, so you really have to use tight underpants, so nothing is flying around, which is not supposed to fly around.
Well, I've had personal experience with Thai boxing shorts. Thai boxing shorts are really loose, as Kay will.
Yeah, they are.
And I used to wear loose boxer shorts under my boxing shorts until I was demonstrating some kicks to a bunch of guys and girls, and I finished it. And I got the guys busy and I walked around, and one of the girls, Linda, I remember her name, she said, "Come here." And I said, "What?" She said, "Bob, please remember to wear tighter underclothes under your Thai boxing." And I, of course, immediately asked her if she was impressed. So, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But isn't it true that the Black Watch, didn't they wear condoms on their penises because they weren't allowed to wear underclothes under their kilts?
They did what?
They wore. Now, I know this was somebody who's in the Black Watch that I knew. And I trusted the source, but I'm not going to take it as read. But he said when he was in the army in the 60s and 70s, he said they'd make them wear a condom on their penis because the kilt would rub against it because they didn't wear anything under the kilt.
Oh.
Now,
is that their way of just saying they got massive balls? I've never had mine rubbing on mine.
Well, no.
I've always been okay.
So you do wear a kilt without underclothes then for wrestling?
Yes. No, not at the Highland Game. No, you wear it the whole rest of the day. The whole rest of the day. You wear it after the wrestling. You take it off.
Well, yeah, I'm just taking your word for it, Zane.
the most famous incident at the Highland Games is one of the very old, very famous Highland guys who now referees a lot of the matches, or he used to. He's dead now, but he traditionally your sporran would be made for you, and he had a very nice sporran made out of a red fox.
Right.
It was absolutely beautiful, and he was wearing it. But like the Highland Games are like the country shows as well. And a guy had bought 3 Patterdales up.
Oh.
One of the Patterdales got off the leash. Literally pulled his kilt off him. But it's even done into like a cartoon. You can see the cartoon drawing. And it's just this guy stood there with this Patterdale pulling his sporran off.
Pulling his kilt off. Oh, God, yeah. I knew as soon as you said Patterdale, I thought, yep, a terrier. Yeah.
What, for me, stupid German, what's a Patterdale?
Oh, it's a type of terrier, a type of dog. So
okay.
It's like a dactyl.
Oh, okay, like a dactyl. Okay, yeah.
But not like a sausage.
Longer legs. Yes.
If you take
in this case, a sausage may have been involved in the kilt incident. Who knows?
It was nearly a sausage Patterdale.
Yeah, as long as he got hold of the sporran and not the sausage. Oh, God.
It's a good one.
Yeah. So, just Zane, you were talking about wrestling earlier on. How does it what you're doing? How does it compare to catch wrestling? Because I've got a friend who teaches. Well, he's a colleague from years ago who teaches catch wrestling in sort of in North Yorkshire, up that way. Is that a similar thing, or?
No, totally different.
Okay.
Totally.
I had a feeling it was somewhat different from what I've seen, but I didn't know.
But I do catch wrestling as well.
Around a while though, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's quite not too sure how long, but it's been about 100 to 150 years maybe catch wrestling.
Right. Okay.
Whereas for the Backold and the Cumberland wrestling, you're talking almost certainly 2,000, possibly considerably longer than 2,000 years.
Right. Yeah.
So there's carved figures in the stones on Scottish hills that clearly show people in the same position for the wrestling.
Oh wow! Okay.
And the market cross at Kells, which they believe the early Christian crosses they believe they were started somewhere around 700 AD, and they think they were started at Iona, and they were moved to Kells because of the Viking invasions. But the market cross there, that has Backold wrestlers carved into the base of it as well.
Wow. So, okay. So
it's
a lot older than catch wrestling then.
But what's your pal's name from Yorkshire?
I'm right. Well, he's not a pal, he's a colleague. I'm just going to check because I was trying to think of his name. As I was thinking about him, he's a big lump and he's been doing it a long time. I
might know him because
you probably do. But that's what I was racking my brains trying to think. He's over in Bridlington. I think it's Bridlington, which is North Yorkshire.
On the coast.
Teesside, over that way, Teesside. Let me.
Yeah.
I'll think of it.
I went to university.
Yeah.
I went to university in Middlesbrough.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay. Did I have a university in Middlesbrough?
Yeah, a lot of people say that, cheeky bastards. You're going to need that sword in a minute, mate.
It's a shithole. Zane, I've only just met you and I've already started disliking you. Oh, so what did you do at university in Middlesbrough? Was that stone carving? Or
come on. Come on, what are you going to do in Middlesbrough? Chemical engineering.
Oh, chemical engineering. Yeah, chemical engineering.
It was a best place.
Oh,
yeah, it was a best. It's so funny. The universities ranked really low, But it's one of the best places you could do it, because we were literally, like, our lectures were in the tower, and like you'd start talking about a process, and they'd literally be like, okay, now this is a process with it. Now, if you look out the window over there, you could literally see like any process you wanted to talk about at the time, you could see it out the window from that tower block.
That was incredible, Middlesbrough. I mean, for the guys, you two don't know, Middlesbrough is essentially just chemical works from one end of the country to from one end of the county to the other, isn't it? It's huge.
It's unreal.
Oh, unbelievable. I mean, when I used to head south from Newcastle, you could just see it miles away, glaring away. It was like something from Blade Runner, wasn't it? Just like Blade Runner. Amazing place. And I mean, people were being born with like 3 eyes and things, you know. and that you never used to say, give me 5. It used to be, give me 6. Honestly, give me 6.
It's like
Give me 6.
It's Britain's Ludwigshafen.
Ludwigshafen.
It's like Ludwigshafen.
Yeah,
Ludwigshafen.
Yeah, right.
But I met a guy who was a pilot during World War II, and he flew the Spitfires, but he was from Middlesbrough, and they were based just outside of Middlesbrough in the hills.
Yeah.
And he said it was a massive advantage. I didn't realize they flew that far.
No.
So they'd fly down there, fight, and then fly back up.
Right.
And he said it was a massive advantage. I said, how is it an advantage being in Middlesbrough? And he was like, well, the most dangerous thing was actually navigating, because all you lot forget, but we literally just had a compass, right? He says, you're going to struggle to get your map out and open it in the cockpit.
Yeah, cool.
So he's like, you could have a little bit folded up, but if you got lost and got into trouble, then, you know, a lot of people crashed into the sea because they got lost and ran out of fuel. Yeah. And he said, we didn't have much left over by the time we've gone down there and come back.
Of course, yeah.
But he said with Middlesbrough, or you could never get lost because you just turn north, and then you just kept the coast where you could see it, and you just flew until you saw the dome of smoke on the horizon.
Yeah,
when you saw the dome of smoke, you knew it was time to turn and towards the hills. And he said you could see it from miles away, just a dome of smoke.
Well, my dad was served most of his time in the Merchant Navy. And he used to be on the colliers coming up the coast from London, from the Thames. So they'd go down to London, drop off the coal, and then they'd head back up the coast. And even in the worst weather, he said, because you never use charts on the coast. None of the ships. They just looked. They knew all the different lights. And they knew they were nearly home when they could see Middlesbrough, the lights of Middlesbrough. It's just, even in the heaviest fog, you could see all of the lights of Middlesbrough. It was so intense. And you knew
when they flare off, it was actually in the news a couple of weeks ago because one of the plants had fled off and scared all the people that were living there. But it's incredible. Like when they properly flare off, you get like a 200-foot flame.
Yeah.
And you can hear the rain exploding when it's coming in because it's just literally exploding in the heat. And I didn't think at the time, but it's near the coast. So that 200-foot flame, you must have been able to see for miles out to sea.
Better than any lighthouse, probably. You know, it's like a huge thing. It's most of it's being taken down now. Quite a lot of it's changed now down there. So it's not as impressive as it once was. So I fancy living in Middlesbrough. and you've survived.
Oh, I loved it. I loved Middlesbrough.
Yeah, they're all right. They're southerners.
The only martial art was boxing, though.
Oh yeah. In the pub.
It wasn't very multicultural.
Oh no. You don't get that in Middlesbrough. No.
What do you like? I like martial arts. Well, we got a boxing club. Oh, what else you got? A boxing club.
Yeah,
okay, I'll do boxing.
That's all you had. None of that. None of those bizarre, esoteric Japanese things. Huh?
What do you mean you wear your pajamas? I used to box for this club called the Wellington there. And it was so cool because it's quite possibly how the boxing clubs used to be, because it was called the Wellington because it was in the Wellington pub.
Yeah.
You had to go into the pub behind the bar and up the stairs to get to the boxing gym. Yeah. It was a proper boxing gym.
Yeah.
And then you do your training, you come downstairs and you're expected to stay for a pint or two.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's hardcore. You don't see that anymore.
Well, I used to teach at the University of Birmingham when I first went there in the 80s. I was teaching Thai boxing actually in the bar because it's the only room we could get.
Are you joking?
No. So back in those days, everybody smoked.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and there was carpets. And the carpets used to be squelchy with beer, you know, sort of like, and you'd finish a session. When you finish the session barefoot, your feet would have a layer of lager and beer on it. I mean, of course,
barefooted, nice.
Barefooted on a carpet full of beer.
So you were not barefooted. You were beer-footed.
Barefooted, yeah. And
but
we used to finish training at 8 o'clock, and then the bar would open, so we would just stay there.
Perfect.
It was.
But it's interesting. It's interesting because this is kind of in the tradition, like many broadsword masters used to teach. Because when we see sometimes newspaper articles from the 18th century, for example, Donald McAlpine, he was a Scottish fencing master who lived and taught in the colonies.
Yeah.
And he was the teacher of the. He's very famous here in Germany. The Earl or Duke of Rumford. I don't know if you know him. He is very important for Munich. However, this Donald McAlpine taught him and he was teaching in the Green Dragon Tavern. So there was often kind of a tavern or a pub or an inn, and they were doing in the back room or upstairs, the fencing master would teach people. And then he could, go downstairs and have a drink and eat something, and then he goes up again and teaches people again. And this is interesting because because you mentioned boxing, Dane, that in Germany, when boxing became slowly popular, it was, as far as I know, mostly because of German prisoners of war who saw boxing when they were imprisoned after World War I by the English, by the British, and they were bringing boxing back and starting to do boxing, but it was prohibited, being too brutal. So in the beginning it was prohibited, and then they were starting to train secretly, like in a fight club, downstairs in the basement or in the backyard or somewhere else in the pubs. And I think the one of the first boxing clubs evolved in Berlin or something like that. So, but quite quickly, boxing became very popular in Germany after World War I, because before that you don't hear anything about boxing in Germany.
Oh, okay.
Really? You didn't have it?
That's unusual, isn't it? I would have thought you would have had your own sort of tradition of boxing.
No,
they didn't like the Marquess of Queensberry rules.
That's what it was.
I don't like playing fair.
Yeah, the old square.
What do you mean you got only above the belt?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
No punching my face. No.
And around the same time, Jiu-Jitsu became a thing in Germany slowly.
Right.
So there was one guy, he's still very famous in the judo and Jiu-Jitsu world here in Germany. Unfortunately, I forgot his name. I think it was Rode. I'm not sure, but there's still a martial arts equipment label with a name here in Germany.
Right.
And he was introducing Jiu-Jitsu from Japan, and he was also teaching it somewhere in the back room of a pub. And this was spreading also quite quickly, and around 1910, 1920s and so on, many police forces in Germany were starting to use Jiu-Jitsu for police, arresting techniques and so on. And interestingly, it was translated and written down very German. So we know Jiu-Jitsu is written with what's the name a J.
Yeah.
No. What's the name for the letter?
J.
J, right?
Yeah.
And in German yeah, and in Germany it was pronounced like it was written like it was pronounced Jiu-Jitsu. So DSCH in the beginning, and this reads quite awkward. But you find some manuals with this name and Jiu-Jitsu, yeah, and still until today. So they were mixing it with boxing and kickboxing and things like that. And until today, Jiu-Jitsu, or in the name Jiu-Jitsu, it's still the main, training martial art of the German police forces still. And they are always evolving. They learn from new, from Filipino martial arts, from Muay Thai, from Krav Maga. So they are evolving, and you have many of these Jiu-Jitsu clubs still teaching that, and the police force still do it.
Right. Oh. So what have you got in Belgium then? Beer and chocolate.
And Savat. Savat was very popular in
yeah.
Belgium. Yeah, we still have some Savat, a few Savat schools and Savat champions who are still teaching, but it's not so popular, so they have to teach it after class. They have to do some very stupid popular kickboxing class, and then after that they will teach some Savat to people who want to have an extra hour for these kind of things, because it's that it's its own. And Muay Thai only became popular very recently as the global trend. But it was more popular in Holland because of Dekkers.
Chakariki, yeah, the Chakariki.
Raymond Dekkers, the Diamond, and
Raymond Dekkers, yeah.
Raymond
Dekkers was amazing.
Yeah, he was amazing.
He's a legend. Yeah.
I can honestly say he was a friend of mine. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Bob saw him.
I knew Raymond Dekkers. Yeah.
Bob saw a seminar of him once, didn't you, Bob?
Yeah, we had him over in Birmingham a couple of times. He's a terrible teacher. Crap.
good fighters, most are terrible.
Great fighter, shit teacher. He didn't have a clue. And he's only tiny. He's only about this big.
Yeah.
Yeah, tiny little guy, up to my shoulders. Yeah. So I knew Raymond. Yeah. I saw him fight in Bangkok against Seng Ten Noi, one of the greatest fighters in Thailand, and it was quite sad because Raymond definitely beat him. But the judges give it to the Thai. Raymond battered him. He split his head literally from the crown to the here with a downward elbow straight over the top. And I thought, yes, whoa! But no, the Thai judges gave it to the Thai, which was really even.
They didn't want to get murdered afterwards.
Even Seng Ten Noi.
White guy lose.
Seng Ten Noi. Even Seng Ten Noi said, "I lost that fight." You know, Seng Ten Noi knew he'd lost, but it was the promoter and the judges give it to, which was bad, really bad.
Yeah. So some gangster had bet a lot of money.
yeah, right. I trained with a guy in my teacher's place called Locke, and Locke was the pad man there. And he literally, we talked the other night, didn't we, Heiko, about the Olde Chopping Block, right?
Yes, right.
Scars all over this guy. This guy Locke, his face was just covered in scars from elbows. He was like a journeyman fighter. You know, he wasn't a champion. He just fought everybody and got battered most of the time. And I was on the pads with him, and I'm training with him. And we sat down, and I'm having a drink. And I said, and he said, I have to go now. And I said, oh, okay, Locke, yeah. Where do you live? And he told me which part of Bangkok, which is pretty rough. And I said, he said, I go to work tonight. And I said, oh, you've got another job? And he said, yes. Yes. I said, oh, what do you do? Do you have your own gym? And he went, no, boom, boom, boom. I went, what? Guns. Yes, guns. Shoot, boom, boom. I said, oh, policeman. And he goes, no. And then he went, okay, hitman. For gang. Boom, boom, boom. Dead. I went, okay, Lock, yeah. So it sort of changed the way I was very respectful after that, you know. And my teacher, Pimu,
shift, mate.
Oh, incredible. My teacher, Pimu, he said, proper old school gym in Thailand. And he said, I said, oh, Lock tells me he is assassin, hitman. And Pimu goes, yeah. Oh, okay. For gang, yeah, for a gang. Yeah. Okay, we train. I was like, but him, bad man. Oh no, Lock good. Only kill bad people. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, of course.
We go on bad. Come. I was like, oh my god. It's a completely different type of world. It's almost medieval, the way the attitudes were in Bangkok. You know, it's like in the gyms and in the not the modern gyms. The modern gyms are very pathetic. I don't like the modern gyms. They've got no atmosphere. They've got aircon. You know, and the tourists all come over and they think they're doing Muay Thai. You haven't done Muay Thai unless you're living in a gym without showers, without toilets. And you got mosquito nets to protect you, and concrete floors and dog shit everywhere. You know,
barefoot and dog shit.
It improves your footwork.
A really good friend of mine. We used to live with him actually in Middlesbrough. We lived together in Middlesbrough.
Lots of dog shit in Middlesbrough as well.
But he's from Malaysia.
Oh, okay.
The whole time I've known him, I've been trying to get him to come and do some wrestling.
Oh, right.
And, he's no. I no fight. Me Chinese. I says, yeah. What happens if you have to fight? Everybody has to fight sometime. He goes, no problem. Thai hitman, $500. He just listen. You don't fight. Thai hitman, $500.
It's incredible, isn't it? Yeah. It's the way of the world over there. I remember getting stopped by 5 policemen, and I've actually got a picture of me with these 5 policemen. And somebody said it looks like the village people, right?
Who were you? Was it Indian or the policeman? Or?
Oh no, no, I was the biker. The big moustache down here like this. And we were talking, and he said, "Why are you in Thailand?" And I said, "Oh, Muay Thai, Nak Muay, Thai boxer." And he goes, "No." I said, "Yeah, no, I'm Nak Muay." And he said, "Who are your teacher?" I said, "Ajahn Pimu." So everybody knew Pimu. Oh, you good? You fight us? And I'm like, oh God. I goes, well, no. I don't want to fight you. He goes, no, I shoot. And he pulled his gun out. He goes, I shoot you if you fight me. And then and he looked at me and he said, what's in there? And I have like a fanny pack, you know, with my wallet in and stuff like that. He said, what's in there? And I said, oh, my passport and traveler's checks, a little bit of money. Cocaine? And I went, no, not cocaine. And he goes, yes, you have cocaine. For sure you have cocaine. And I went, no, I don't have cocaine. If I have cocaine, you hang me, you know, I get shot. And he goes, no. You want cocaine? No. Oh, crazy place. Wonderful place. Completely.
That's something that Thailand tourists don't experience, right?
No.
They only see elephants and temples and beaches.
That's it. Yeah, but even the Thai boxing gyms out there are not like they were back in the old days. I understand why, because the Thais want to make some money out of the stupid foreigners, and it's third world, so they have to make money. But all the old school gyms are starting to vanish now. So those old traditions are all going to be lost. I think I'm the only one keeping them going in Birmingham and around the country, because as Kay will tell you, I keep all the old traditions alive. The rituals, all of the dances, the sword, you know, everything. And hardly anybody else is doing it.
No.
Ramwa. Is that the Ramwa?
Ramoy, yeah.
Ramoy, yeah, White Crew. Ramoy, the dance. So each camp has its own ritual dance, which is based on fighting movements. But now you go to a Thai boxing show and you say, okay, can we do the Ramoy? And they go, no.
You didn't know a guy called Steve. You didn't know
Steve
a guy
who?
called
A guy called Steve. Oh, yeah, Steve. Yeah, I know Steve.
He was from Nottingham. He had the Thai boxing gym in Nottingham.
Steve what though? I mean, can you remember?
I've been sat here for about 5 minutes trying to remember his second name.
The wrestling guy. I think it's Crossley. I think it's a guy.
Yeah, I know Crosby.
Yeah.
Crosby. Mark Crosby. Yeah. Crossan.
That's it. Yeah. I went and did I went to his
different
gym.
name.
I went to his like Steve. I went to his gym and did a seminar, a self-protection seminar for him with his guys because he'd been on one of my self-protection courses, Edge Weapons, and he was really fascinated by the approach because my approach, as Kay will tell you, it's really basic. There's no bullshit, you know. It's like fucking run. You know, that's the first thing.
That's very bad advice. That's very bad advice.
Run away, you know, unless even if you know what you're doing, you're going to get cut. Something's going to happen. And even then, even when you've trained, do you have the intention to do any damage to the assailant? Most people couldn't fight. They don't like hurting people. So there's a whole psychology behind violence. You know, you're prepared. Somebody said to me, and a screamer guy said, yeah, I'll strip the knife and I'll take the knife, then I'll stab him. And I said to him, I said, so you would stab somebody, would you? And he went, well, I said, think about it. You're actually going to take somebody's life. You're prepared to do that, are you? And I could see him sort of like, well, I said, you wouldn't. I said, so why the fuck are you learning to take a knife off someone and then stab him? Because you won't. Because for one, you won't strip the knife because you'll rip your hands apart. And secondly, you'll get the knife and go, oh, and run away. You know what I mean? Oh, there's some stupid ideas about violence. And I mean, I guess it's everywhere, really. I mean, Kay's heard this all before. And I'm quite passionate about it because you get idiots teaching stuff. You know, Thai boxers as well. And you go, no, Thai boxing's a sport. It's a sport. You know, it's definitely. You know what I'm talking about. Street fight's completely different. It's a different psychology.
Do you know Penn and Teller?
You know, it's a different psychology. It's completely.
Do you know Penn and Teller?
Say again.
Do you know Penn and Teller?
The magician.
The American magicians. Yeah, have you seen their? They did a series called Bullshit.
No, I've never seen it.
Yeah, you've got to look up, and they just do all sorts of different things. Like mind reading is bullshit.
Yeah.
One of the episodes is called Martial Arts is Bullshit.
Oh, brilliant! Brilliant.
But it's so good because they're really intelligent guys, and they're not martial artists.
Yeah.
They say the whole premise of the show is we're going to go and look at things we don't know anything about, and then we're going to figure out whether they're real or they're bullshit.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. They were actually so smart that they realized what I'd never noticed doing martial arts my whole life is they noticed in just their little investigation into it that then people aren't learning martial arts. People are learning to have some confidence in their fucking life.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's why all these things are bullshit martial arts, because they don't actually want to fight. They don't want to fight. They're scared of getting in a fight.
Exactly.
So they're going to learn martial arts so they can walk down the street without being scared. And they want it to be bullshit. They want to believe they can just do a jumping flying kick and everyone will fall over.
Yeah. It's building false confidence.
It's really worth watching.
Oh, I'm going to have a look for that. It's about building, all they're doing is building a false confidence, you know. I make it clear when I'm teaching self-protection, I'll say, the first thing I say is that, you know, I'm looking around the room and there's about 15 people, and I would say 14 of you, as long as you've got a hole in your ass, you'll never have a fight, and you don't want to fight. There's maybe one nutter in the room, and he shouldn't be here. The nutter shouldn't be, to be here. You know, we had one called Ross.
Yeah, I was just going to say it, Ross, and he's now a police officer in Coventry.
Yeah, Ross is.
He loves violence. He loves.
Yeah, I actually said to Ross, why on earth why are you coming to my self-protection courses? He goes, that's just a laugh, isn't it? So,
oh, you remember the video when he knocks out his roommate with an elbow?
Oh, he knocked his roommate out with an elbow.
To see if it works. He
Just
asked
to
him
see
to
if it
stand
works.
up, and he does like an elbow, and you can see the other guy go, boom.
Oh, it's an incredible video.
Funny.
I'll have to.
So funny. Yeah.
The guy said to him, the guy did Wing Chun, and he said to Ross, my Wing Chun can beat your Muay Thai. And Ross went, well, I don't believe you, like, because I just knock you out. And he was like, no. And so Ross said, punch me in the face with your best punch. So the guy did a standing punch and punched Ross in the chin. And Ross went, oh, that's pretty good, that. He said, right, can I do my technique? He went, yeah, go on. And he just went, dunk, with an elbow and knocked him out. I mean, instantly unconscious. The guy had concussion, he was sick. I mean, he bruised, and he hardly touched him, but it's crazy. It's crazy. So, but I mean, there's other reasons to do some of the martial arts. I think, there's to keep things alive. Some of the traditions and that, which is what I'm interested in as well. Which is why I'm into sword and learning different weapons, because it just fascinates me. And to be honest, a lot of certainly the sword I've been doing with Heiko, was used. It has practical application. It was used, and we know that the people who used it were hard bastards. But then it was a different time, wasn't it?
Yeah, right.
And most people still exist, don't they?
Yeah, they had less self-preservation also as well. If you look at McBane's book, he didn't know whether he was going to survive the next day on the field anyway. So his self-preservation was lower, and people who go to a gym, they don't want to. I remember about one time there was this new guy, and he came to your class, and he immediately like sprained his wrist or something, and he started crying and sitting on the side, and you were like, look, if this is what if this really upsets you, you shouldn't be doing martial arts, because that's, it's something that,
I
it's
think
stupidity,
I told him,
right?
Yeah, I think I told him to take up Highland Wrestling. Sorry, Zane. Sorry.
You should do a podcast.
It's a good job. It's a good job we're not actually in a pub, isn't it?
The next thing would be, okay, let's go outside, try out tackle wrestling against Muay Thai.
Me and Zane rolling around on the car park. Me and Zane on the car park. Come on.
Do you know a Thai boxer called Isiduru?
Isiduru, yeah.
He was from Birmingham.
Yeah, of course he was. Yeah, what's happened to him now? I've not heard of him for years.
I think the last time I saw him fight was like 95 or something.
Yeah, that'll be right. Yeah, I mean, I've not heard of him. I think he's gone now. Yeah, I mean, I had the first.
We used to come down and
first club in Birmingham.
The shows.
Yeah, he was always at the shows.
Birmingham for some of the shows.
Yeah.
Steve Papp was the guy's name.
Yeah, I remember Steve Papp. Yeah.
I used to train with Steve.
Oh my God, it's a small world, isn't it?
When I was a young man.
How old are you now? How old are you, Zane?
Wow, 44.
God,
so
you look much older.
Feel much older.
That's not a compliment.
Come on, Zane. You're going to drive down to Birmingham, aren't you, and find out where I am.
You must know Guy Ramsey.
I know the name. Yeah, what, the motorbike guy?
No, he's the guy that's got the fly box in
somebody else.
Glasgow. Yeah, but we've got it. He started doing the broadsword now.
Did he?
And he's done the Highland Wrestling as well. So I think we might be seeing more of him on the circuit, like. So he's loving it.
Where did he pick up the Highland broadsword now?
Everybody's doing
it. In Glasgow.
In Glasgow, okay. With Keith Farrell?
Yeah, he's picking up. Ben? No, not with that lot.
Okay.
No.
Or with
the older guys. The older guys who are related to Pascal.
Okay, I don't know them. Yeah.
Zane, you're doing broadsword as well then? Zane, you're also doing broadsword, right?
Yeah. Badly, yeah. I'm the Highland Games champion.
Not until I come over, my friend.
Come on, Hiker.
Notice how brave everybody is online.
The good thing is I know that Zane, if he got a hold, he's just throwing me through the room, you know, like I weighed nothing. When we had the when was it, in 2017 I think, or was it 2018? I don't know. I think it was 2017 when you came over to Germany and we had the Highland Wrestling seminar.
Yeah, I think it was 17.
Yeah, and Zane was, you know, using me as his partner to show the techniques. And every time he grabbed me, and it was, I knew that I wouldn't stand a chance ever to do anything, you know, because he just picks me up and throws me around like I'm nothing. You know, it's true. I'm you know, it's just true. So. Yeah, if Zane would want to have a broadsword bout, okay, of course we can do that. But a Highland wrestling bout, I would say, okay, as long as I can use my broadsword, I'm in. Yeah.
But Zane, have you ever tried to combine both, like with a stick fight and then going into the wrestling, like combining both sports?
That's what it's actually for. That's where the Highland wrestling comes from.
Yeah.
But that's what we want to do. That's what hopefully want to do with Heiko. Is
yeah, absolutely.
Heiko, I watched your stick videos, your cane videos, which were very interesting with the well, not with the pommel, but with the knot. That was quite interesting because the moves were basically very similar, except for poking someone in the eye.
Yeah. Did you?
Yes, really. Yeah. It was the Irish stick, but I was.
Yeah. I like the Irish blackthorn as a stick, and I'm reading a lot into Irish stick fighting since I started with all the HEMA stuff, and but our system is a combination, as I explained, of different things, and the point when I was very much getting into stick fighting and realistic stick fighting was actually when I was exchanging and going to the sparrings meetings with the Doc Brothers, because when you want to do stick fighting and want to stress test yourself, these guys are the ones you should meet, because they are exactly doing that. They have a stick, and they bash your head in because they see you have a fencing mask, which is your protection for the head, and they won't hit you on the head through this fencing mask, you know, not on the fencing mask to get a point, but they want to make a hit to hit you in the head that you know, got a knockout even with fencing mask.
Yeah.
And interestingly, one of my friends from the Doc Brothers, Peter, he got his forearm broken on a gathering because when he was, you know, like missing a strike, and the guy came with a forehand and was hitting his head, his instinct was to raise his hand, his arm, to protect his head. And later on they thought, yeah, it's, you know, it's just a bump, so we can press it down. And they were trying to press it down, and he was screaming like hell. And then they realized, oh, the forearm is broken. It seems that the forearm is broken. And he said, oh, I was so stupid when I got it on the fencing mask. Then maybe that wouldn't be so hard. Now I have a broken forearm. And I told him, yeah, but think about stick fighting realism. If you might, I mean, do you want to have your forearm broken, or you want to get your head smashed in? Because this is a commanding center, so better to have the forearm broken, right? And he said, yeah, you're right. But still, it was a reaction, yes. And I think there are in fighting movements there are many very natural reactions we have. And very often I have people in my classes when they are new, and you show them a technique or how to move and do this and that. Sometimes they say, yeah, I don't get this movement because it feels so unnatural. I say, but it's not unnatural. You can move your body like this. And a lot of things in martial arts, especially in very practical martial arts like broadsword or boxing or wrestling, are basing on what you can do with your body and what your instinct is. So, for example, the hanging guard with a broadsword like this is not so different from guarding your head in unarmed fighting like this. Okay, you have the same angle, you're guarding your head with something in between, because you know instinctive, your instinct is, you know, this is your command center. If this goes out, you're down, you're out, you are helpless. So better to break an arm or get cut into the arm, and so on and so on. And I wanted just quickly to pick up what you said before about people doing martial arts and why they do martial arts. I think it's true that, of course, when you train a martial art, you get a different sense of, you get a different sense or taste about violence. But still, I think people, they don't want to prepare for real violence. They still want to avoid fights, as you said, but they like violence in a controlled context. So when they know, okay, I have to fight only one guy, there are some rules, there's maybe a referee, and it's still for fun. But though it's I think most of the stuff we are doing in martial arts is like a ritual. Okay, so we are preparing ourselves with our bodies and our mind, that if a real fight might happen, maybe I'm prepared for that. And even so that martial arts training does not guarantee that you will be prepared for real violence in the real world, you are still one step closer to it than people who don't train martial arts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's always just halfway, but still you are closer to the experience. And I think the more realistic a martial arts is, so for example, you Muay Thai guys, you are hit in the face with elbows. Okay, you get knee strikes into the liver and whatnot. Okay, for you it's normal, but most of the people would say like, "Oh my God, this is crazy."
Yeah.
And it makes us happy.
Much closer to real violence, like not doing that, you know.
Yeah, and we smile when
yeah,
we
of
get
course,
hit.
I understand
we smile,
that. Because,
exactly. Yeah, and we respect the other one if he's able to do this. Yeah.
That's a good thing, and I think that's the thing. It's about connecting with another human being in a very, very intimate way. And it's also kind of, trusting each other, because you fight in a controlled context. But if both people don't control themselves, this could become, like mayhem. You know what I mean? So you have to trust the other guy when you fight with them. No matter if it's a broadsword, if it's Muay Thai, or if it's wrestling, you have to trust them that they will not really harm you on purpose, or not really harm you more than the rules will say.
But sometimes they do.
I can imagine they are crazy people, but
yeah, sometimes people panic. You remember Bob, the one in the gym who just did spinning elbows on people because he was panicking or afraid and trying to knock people actually out because he was new at training, and it was very dangerous. He was crazy. It was quite a heavy blow.
I did have words with him, didn't I?
So, yeah. Bob said, "I'm going to put you with this one. I'm going to put you with this one if you keep continuing." But it was quite dangerous. And I remember he did a spinning elbow, and I was just holding the pads, and it was this close to my face, but the reaction was still to do the right thing. So thanks to the training, I knew what to do. But otherwise, I would have broken my nose for sure.
Yeah.
For me, because Zane said it's about confidence, and Heiko said it's preparing also for a real situation. For me, it was always about focus. When you do martial arts, you're in a kind of type of focus which you don't find in many other things, except when you're really like concentrated on something or reading or doing something that you really like. And it's that focus that really makes me feel very relaxed. It's because you've only got one problem in front of you, which is your partner or a sparring partner or your opponent, and it makes everything else go away, and you only have your body and your skill to deal with it. And it's a very nice way of dealing with something, and it does, for me, that was always a drive. So the focus, but there's not many people coming for that purpose. I think that's, some people come for really learning something or fear or just training for physique, which is okay. But I came specifically for this, for the focus, and that's really a very nice feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, totally understand that. I agree.
Yeah. Systematic training, good systematic training should develop that, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
It should. I mean, the Greeks had a word for it, didn't they? Ataraxia, unperturbedness under battle conditions. That's what their soldiers strive to have in battle. I'm a big fan of the Greeks, as Kay will tell you.
Oh, you like? That's why you wanted to know what was under my kilt.
No.
now we understand.
Well, it's the smallest it would have been the smallest kebab I'd ever seen. No.
So guys, just a quick question in between.
Yeah.
Are you all always? I mean, this is a pub.
Yeah.
And I don't see anyone drinking.
Hey, whoa, hang on. Whiskey all night. A proper drink.
Because
not German beer.
Because my two bottles of beer are already empty, and I have to go to the fridge. Yeah, okay, you have whiskey. You have an excuse. It's okay. But what is Kay doing? What is Zane doing?
I'm doing. Sorry,
a Coke.
Bob will tell you.
I
drink no alcohol at all. This is the problem. Yes.
Okay, so you are the guy driving us home later, okay?
He's going to drive us home. Yeah.
Yeah.
Designated driver.
Designated driver.
Perfect.
Hey, you know, earlier on we were talking about boxing in pubs and things like that, and taverns and fight training establishments in tavern. There's a really famous one in Birmingham at the Austin. I don't know whether Zane's heard of it. The Austin Boxing Club is really old.
I've heard of the name, but I don't. Yeah.
It's in a working men. It's actually in a working men's club.
All right.
So where men go to drink after work, and there was a boxing club at the back of it. Yeah. Very famous it was. And they also had a place down in Digbeth. Yeah, where all the forges were, their foundries and that were. So there was a big one in Digbeth, and that was there's a big Irish contingent in Birmingham. In fact, a lot of people in Birmingham, their ancestors came over to dig the canals, and you can always tell the Irish descendants because they're all hard as nails and daft as a brush. They're crazy. Yeah. And they brought with them like some of the traditions, the cudgel fighting, the shillelagh, and the bare knuckle boxing. There's quite a tradition in Birmingham of that.
Yeah, the catch wrestling. The most famous catch wrestling gyms in Wigan.
Oh yeah,
I know.
Yeah.
But
Mark,
that was Bill O'Reilly.
About that place. Yeah. So did he?
Yeah, he was. I actually started talking to Mark Crossan on the internet when I first started hearing about catch wrestling and wanting to do it.
Right.
But yeah. But that was an Irish guy. That gym was started by a guy called Bill O'Reilly who came over from Ireland.
Right.
And really interesting. I'm gonna finally, when we're allowed to go back to the gym, I'm gonna ask Roy. There's a guy called Roy Wood who's still there, and I actually knew him before I did catch wrestling because I did freestyle wrestling before, and Roy used to train the freestyle wrestling for that area. So I knew him through the freestyle. And I started doing a catch. But he was a young kid. He actually met Bill Riley in that. So I really want to ask him what Bill Riley's background was and what he brought over and why he ended up starting what became the toughest of the minor wrestling clubs.
Right.
Because it was based at their mine there, and then they used to wrestle for money against the other mines.
Yeah. It's always been there, hasn't it, this tradition?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Minus wrestling, right? Yeah.
This is sport wrestling, catch wrestling. So it's more like catch wrestling's most famous because the only guy who really challenged the Gracie's dominance in mixed martial arts was a Japanese wrestler called Sakuraba. But Sakuraba's teacher was Billy Robinson from the Snake Pit in Wigan.
Yeah, Billy Robinson. Is he still alive?
No, he's died now. But Roy Wood used to train with Billy Robinson and that. and he's still here, though he just had a stroke a few months ago.
Yeah, Billy was really famous, wasn't he?
Yeah. But also the Kimura, the guy Kimura who went over and is the reason that Kimura is called the Kimura, he actually learned that off the catch wrestlers as well. So the generation before, the only guy that beat him, because it's a double wrist lock, and he learned that off the professional wrestlers in Japan via the same gym. God. So there's 2 generations where the JJ guys got done in, and it was both guys from this gym.
Wow. Yeah, Billy Robinson, famous guy, wasn't he?
Bob has a very good fighter from Wigan. It's a girl in the she's crazy. Typical crazy.
Tell me about it. I'm drinking in Wigan.
He's a crazy ginger.
Wigan and Bolton, they're absolutely nuts. And the women are the same as she's a fighter from Wigan. She's really good.
And she's ginger. She has ginger hair. That's what's mad about her.
Oh, brilliant!
And I think she fucked everybody in my Thai boxing club, apart from me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
That's the sort of girl I like.
I'll tell you, mate. I'll have to
in both ways.
Yeah. And here's a. She was on Facebook the other day, and she said, "I've taught myself to weld." I was like, what? Why are you learning to weld?
You remember, Bob, the story where she elbowed somebody who was pouring a beer over her sis, and she said, "Okay, then it's boof," and she elbowed somebody at a party. You remember that story?
That's right. Yeah, I do. She's crazy.
She's a real fighter. She's born a fighter. It's amazing.
Yeah, she was a born fighter. I went before her first fight. I made her do 30 rounds, literally with everybody in the gym that night. And
and that's only
how she kept going. Just so much bottle for a young girl. Incredible bottle. Just kept going, and nobody was letting up on her. Really put the pressure on her. Obviously, not to the point where we would injure her because we needed her to fight.
Yeah.
But it was like just to prove to her, because she didn't believe that she could win a fight. And I said, you just fought 30 guys for 1 minute rounds, no rest. Bang, 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 bang. Incredible.
Oh, Jesus, man.
And she had big tits as well.
Yay!
I only say that in passing, obviously, I haven't noticed that,
I mean, it's a pub meeting. We have to talk about such things too.
Well, that's I thought I'd bring the tone down a little bit because it was in debt because we've got somebody who's sort of moderately. Well, we've got somebody who's sober here. You know what I mean? So
yeah, right. I will
only because I'm driving tomorrow.
Yeah, right.
It's because you're French.
I will come back. I will just go to my fridge and grab something new because I'm already empty.
Okay.
Oh no, Zane was drinking. Now I have a proof. Okay. I will be right back.
Yeah, I can't believe Mark Crossan. I was trying to think of his name. It was like, oh man, yeah. Because I meet that many people in my travels. And you sort of remember the characters, but if you haven't seen them for a few years, you just forget.
Well, you forget what a small world it is.
Oh, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, it is.
Mark Crossan, because he was trying to organize the events to do the wrestling championships again.
Yeah.
And I was going to go down and wrestle for it. And that was when the bloody partner ran off with that stupid Italian. So I ended up.
I've got a club in Italy, if you don't mind. I have a club.
Can I come and train with them? I'll teach them some sharp, pointy, stabbing moves.
They've all got stupid names like Fabio and Matteo and. How
did you conquer Europe?
I can't believe
what my ancestors doing.
I mean, I can't believe that the Romans actually could fight wars at one time. I mean, they couldn't now, obviously, but.
And now you're looking at the pretty boys going along on their scooters.
Oh. What I noticed in Milan is the guys are not looking at the girls; they're looking at each other and at their asses.
Really?
Like, yeah, the men are checking each other out, and they're looking at themselves in mirrors and things like that, like this. Not my guys. Obviously, my guys are different. You know.
I just suddenly understood it.
Yeah.
When they had the Roman Empire, all the hard Italians left. They all got posted to the borders. It was all the ones.
They went to Middlesbrough. They were all posted. They were all posted to Hadrian's Wall.
Well, imagine them. Have you seen the grave up there from the poor African guy?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Jeez, man.
I know.
Imagine that, being a sub-Saharan African, captured into slavery, thrown into the gladiator pits, winning your freedom, and sent to Hadrian's Wall.
What a bummer. I mean, that's...
Jeez, man.
You know, I mean, what a life. Incredible, really. No, the bloody Romans are mad bastards. But organised. And they kicked the shit out of the Germans as well, but Heiko's gone now.
We'll save that conversation for when he gets back.
Yeah, I'll put a clip on from the film Gladiator. Do you remember the opening scene?
That's my pal in that. That's my pal that plays the German chieftain in the beginning.
Is it?
Yeah. All the guys, all those Germans are Scottish.
No.
Yeah. It's Clan Ranald.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's the same reenactment group that I used to be in.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, that's incredible.
They couldn't find enough hard-looking Germans, so they had to come to Scotland.
Oh, we've got to save that. We've got to repeat that. I mean, we've got to talk about that when he comes back. I mean So we couldn't find any hard-looking Germans, so we had to get.
Had to come to Scotland to get them.
Yeah, this is why Heiko is doing Scottish broadsword, because he's trying to be.
Oh man.
I think I'll get thrown out of the Catran Society now. I'll set my own up. I'll call it the Geordie Broadsword Academy.
Do you want to know something terrible?
Go on.
I didn't even know what a Cataran was.
It's a type of boat, isn't it?
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking. I was like, a Cataran? What's that? Anyway, I couldn't understand why it was called the Cataran Society.
Yeah.
So then I Googled it. And I was like, oh, an old cattle wrestlers. That's so weird. Then I walked out of my dad's house, right? Yeah. I was staying with my dad for the weekend, right? I was like, oh, look, I need to just go for a walk, right? Yeah. So I walked out of his house, turned, like, it's right out in the countryside, turned around the corner, walked down to the end of the road, and there was a big sign, Cataran Trail, that way.
Ah, right, yeah.
What? Went back home, had to Google Cataran Trail, and like it's literally runs right through my dad's garden. And I was like, how have I not ever heard of Cataran? The Cataran Trail runs through your garden. And my dad was like, what's a Cataran?
Yeah, that's strange, isn't it?
It's amazing how you can be so blind, like.
Yeah, well, yeah, when it's there, it's been there all the time, hasn't it? No, we were just talking. Zane was saying how weak the Germans were. For the film Gladiator, they had to bring Scotsmen in to play the Germans because they couldn't find any hard-looking Germans. Obviously, they hadn't found you, Heiko. If they'd seen you,
right, but keep in mind the main Germanic character is played by Ralf Möller, who is a famous German strongman.
Yeah.
So I think he trained with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So the main Germanic character, this big strong guy, he's a real German. So
okay. Arnold's Austrian.
The other people.
Isn't Arnold Austrian?
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger is Austrian. Yeah, he's Austrian, but Ralf Möller, he's German.
Ah, you mean the other gladiator? True, it's the gladiator. But Zane was saying the guys in the beginning of the movie, that the Danish or the northern Germans, they're actually Scots. That's so funny.
Yeah, right. in the battle. Yeah, they were making this sequence somewhere in the UK. Yeah, but
it was Middlesbrough.
Yeah.
Saturday night. It's
Saturday night in
it
Middlesbrough.
saves money to pay for props.
It was in the local
that's why
park. The only little piece of greenery that got left.
Yeah, right. But now I think yesterday a German Netflix production came up called Barbarians about the Germanic tribes fighting against the Roman Empire. And it was produced in Germany. And sorry,
it's terrible. I don't know. It might be. I got the on my Netflix today, just before I came up to turn this on, and I was like, "What's going on?" They're speaking in German, but it's actually in German, so it might be good. But it's Tuteberg.
So
it's
right about right. So I think I've read an article about the show, which is a kind of more of a science magazine, science online magazine, where they wrote about it, and they said the Romans or the Roman legion in this show are depicted quite well for realism and historical accuracy, but the Germanic tribes, you have some aspects which are okay or which are accurate, but only a few, and the rest is a typical, we want to look like the Vikings show and make everything cool fantasy stuff. And I have to say, I'm so annoyed. There are so many. I did not see Barbarians yet. I will watch it. I will watch it just out of curiosity. And the trailer looked not so bad, but I think the problem is that, as far as I heard in one Facebook group, the guys making the show, they were going to some real experts about these battles and about this time.
Real Italian
and they were
experts.
showing them, look, this is what we. No, German experts. So they were going like, okay, look here. This is what we want to do. This is our concept. And they were looking like, okay, guys, this is all bullshit. You know that. So we show you what the real thing was. And in the end of the day, they were only using like maybe 10 or 20% of what the guys told them, which was realistic. Because the problem is, I met the Siniawski family from Poland who is doing Polish saber fencing. I met them on the event, and they are working a lot with Polish and Russian movie makers. They are doing a lot of fighting sequences. Yeah, and they said
really
no, the problem is and they said, the problem, because I said, Polish movies and Russian movies about the fighting, the fighting scenes are always quite very good, especially when it comes to swords. And he said, but we could do even better, because the problem is the movie makers, they say, okay, we want you as our expert. Show us how it was done. And then you show them how it was done and say, but we want to have it like this way. And in the end, if you are the historical advisor and the fighting choreography consultant, you are happy if they take at least 20% of what you showed them, because these movie makers, they have a different view on how it has to look. They have a different perspective. They're looking for some artistic whatever, the light has to be proper and this has to be correct and the atmosphere has to be correct, but they don't give a shit about that the fight looks good. They want to have the fight looking spectacular. Yeah. And sometimes you get a good fight out of it, but quite often you say, and this is the moment where you say, for example, the show Vikings, there are so many things which are really good when it comes to historical things, but there are so many things which are really, 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 really bad. They are like, what is this costume? There's a guy having some leather, on his body, like he's from a Mad Max movie, and wearing like, chainmail here on his upper arm, just loose. For what? It's not decoration, you know. It's not a Gothic festival, and I don't understand why they do that, because historical, realistic stuff, even if you don't be too authentical, because it's not a documentary, it's still a movie, okay? But even if you take a rough look on what they were wearing in the Viking period or the medieval times or whatever, you can still have spectacular things like awesome helmets and nice made tunics and whatnot. You can make it. So for example, the Lord of the Rings movies, when they were showing the riders of Rohan, you know, the cavalry guys, you know, they were quite inspired in their armor and weapons and everything from the Vikings, and they are more realistic as a fantasy people. You know, they look like Vikings on horseback, but the Vikings from the show Vikings, they look like bullshit from Mad Max with a little bit of Game of Thrones. And this annoys me so much, because I said, you have all the money, you have the experts, you can do it much better. Why don't you do it? I don't understand it.
Stupid Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you also have the same. You have the same thing in Russia and in Poland and in Germany. I think that's the problem is the filmmakers, you know, because they have a different angle from where they're looking on movies, because they want to have, you know, it's an art, and yeah. I don't know. It annoys me. It annoys me a lot.
Right. It's a pity, because they have the chance to make it historically correct, and they don't do it. And if something is historically correct, nobody watches it because they think it's boring, but actually it's more accurate. So it's
right. For example, did you guys know the company Grimfrost in Sweden? Yeah. It's a small company, and they produce you know, modern streetwear and jewelry and Viking drinking horns, and also historical weapons and historical armor and Viking tunics and everything. And one of the guys involved is Jonah Heck, which is the frontman of the metal band, the Viking metal band Amon Amas, if you know them. I'm a big fan.
Oh, you're joking.
And yeah,
I didn't know they were to do with
and they. Yeah, he's involved in Grimfrost. He's also presenting in the YouTube channel a lot of videos, and they're showing in their YouTube channel not only the things they are selling, they are also telling a lot about historical accuracy and about history of the Vikings. And they have a small Viking village where they're showing like rowing longboard and everything. And the cool thing is they have one video about Viking raids where they're explaining the history of Viking raids and showing like reenactment, you know, stuff about it. And in between all these Viking reenactors, there is Josh Barnett.
Oh yeah,
the Josh Barnett, the catch wrestling MMA guy. You know, he's supporting their work in some videos. So you can see him standing there with you know, a two-handed axe and whatnot, and you see him great. I can send you the link to the video. And they recently published a teaser trailer of like 10 minutes, like a snippet from a possible movie or TV show they could make about Vikings, and they speak Old Norse. So the movie is in Old Norse, and they show that you, even with this,
There's no point making the perfect program about Vikings. It's already been made. They can't do it better than Norsemen.
Ah, yeah, Norseman was nice.
Yeah, that's great. that's a great one. Yeah, I love the show. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What did you do? Yeah, I raped a little bit. What, you raped? Yeah, I raped a little bit.
I like Eric the Viking.
Great show.
What's that one? Eric the Viking from the.
Yeah. That's a good movie. Yeah, that's a good
with
movie.
the guy going berserk. Yeah.
But you should check it. You should check it out. The movie Grimfrost guys did, and the story was actually written by one of the actors from Norway who's playing King Harald Finehair in the Viking show. So he's involved as well. And Grimfrost is also making some costumes for the Viking show. they're producing them, but their own little movie of just 10 minutes is already great. You watch it and you want to know, okay, what's happening next? Please show me the next sequence. What's happening next? Because it's well made, and at the same time, it's historical accurate. And then you see, okay, you can make a good movie with historical accuracy. It's not boring, it's great.
Maybe it's expensive as well. Maybe that's another reason why they don't do it this easily, because it costs a lot to have these experts on board as well. Would that be
no? That's the point.
That they,
that's the point. Yeah. They hire experts. They hire experts, but they don't listen to them.
So
they ignore them for for reasons we don't understand from a historical point of view. So because the short video made by Grimfrost is really good, and it's made on a very low budget, and that's what they wanted to prove. And they they're watching for people supporting them with money, like crowdfunding thing. So that's really cool.
Heiko, do you remember I told you about how something went on between the Welsh and the Vikings?
Yeah, right. We had a chat about it. Yeah.
Went on in this area. I think I figured out what it was. The Welsh from North Wales, that was the heartland of Christianity in Wales. And most of the Gaelic preachers in the Celtic Church were Welsh. So St. Patrick was Welsh. And at that time, the Gaelic Church was dominated by the Welsh. So when the Vikings started making their deal with the Gaels, they wouldn't attack the Welsh because that was seen as the heartland of their religion.
Okay.
So you got a really weird thing, right? So when the Vikings came down the west coast of Britain, they attack absolutely everywhere except for Wales.
Right.
They go past Wales and attack Brittany. They attack Cornwall. They attack Ireland. They don't attack the Wyre, like this area, Fleetwood, Blackpool. They don't attack. They settle here, but they don't attack here. They attack Cumbria and they full on invade Scotland. But Wales is the only bit that they don't attack. And I'm sure that's it. I'm sure it's going to be because they made the deal, the alliance with the Gaels, and respected Wales because of the hierarchy of the Celtic Church.
And there's still a lot of rape in Blackpool as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's entirely willing. They love it. Okay. It's what they come here for.
Yeah. Blackpool is a wonderful part of the world, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you know the funny thing? I only noticed it about a year ago, but Blackpool is the same name as Dublin. Dublin is Blackpool in Gaelic.
Oh, right. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
right.
you've got two cities that were, I don't know if Blackpool was founded by the Vikings, but this whole area, this whole peninsula was settled by the Vikings.
Right.
And that's why you see dual town names here. Yeah. Right? So a lot of the town names here, like Ormskirk.
Oh, yeah.
The Dragon's Church.
Right.
Okay. So you see a lot of Viking names, and then you've got Blackpool, and directly over the sea, you've got Dublin, which is Blackpool in Gaelic.
Right.
So like there's certainly some connection between the two. Yeah. So, but the history around here is just fascinating. Like,
oh yeah.
Well, the fascinating thing is that these very, very old names, they stay in these toponyms, really, really old Celtic.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing how long these names keep the history. And that's Birmingham as well. It means Beer Man's Heim, because there was Beer Man's Heim, because there was this Celtic tribe where the head of the tribe was mostly called the Beer Man because it was a big bear guy. And so a lot of places around Birmingham were called according to this Birmingham, and there's other places in there which are called Bearwood.
Bearwood in Birmingham, yeah.
So Beer Man is named after a man.
Yeah. Beer Man's Heim, and Heim in German means Heimat, the home, because this was an old Celtic word for home. And in Belgium, we have a lot of places called Gem or Hem, and it also means Heim. So these words, they were very old tribal words. And it's really cool how they come back. They still are in the toponyms, and I think it's amazing. Yeah.
So it literally means bear man's home.
Yes, bear man's home, because he was the head of the tribe, and he was a big lad, probably a Viking-like type, who started this place. Yeah. Did you know Birmingham was the oldest place where they ever found remnants of the first saunas in UK, which were really primitive? It means that people were originally like Scandinavians building saunas and using them for all kinds of things.
There's still quite a lot of saunas in Birmingham as well.
Yeah.
I mean, that tradition has carried on, obviously.
You mean like real saunas, or like sauna clubs with naked people?
No, I don't. I mean,
the Fickenheimer. I think they're called the Fickenhaus in German.
Fickenheimer.
Yeah.
In Germany, we call Brussels, if we want to do, if we want to sound sophisticated, you call it a bordel, like the French word, I think.
Yeah.
But the regular word for the regular word for brothel in Germany is puff.
Something entirely different in the UK.
Yeah, something completely different. Yeah.
Don't come to a British and ask for a puff, because you'll get one.
Oh man.
Yeah, I don't know where this word is coming from in German.
Yeah, we've got somebody online here. I mean, he lives in Ghent, which is like the brothel capital of Belgium, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very famous. There's a special street called the Glass Street, because it's an entire street of only brothels. And Bob knows a boxer who said, "Oh yeah, you're from Ghent. Don't tell the missus, but that was my best time ever in Europe."
Yeah, one of my friends and ex-students who's a boxer, he went to, I introduced him to Kay, and he said, "Oh, so where you from?" And Kay says, "I'm from Ghent." He goes, "Oh, it's brilliant. It's full of brothels. It's fantastic." I was like, okay.
He's one of the most colorful characters from Bob's group that I met in Birmingham, because he has a red and a gray squirrel on each of his shoulder, and they tell him different things when he's in a fight. So the red squirrel will tell him to fight, and the gray squirrel will tell him to think logic, but he really believes in them, and it's so funny how this guy thinks. It's really, really funny. He's
squirrels.
Yeah, squirrels. So this guy is about 6'3", 6'2". He's built like the proverbial, shit house. He's massive, and he's not scared of anybody. He's not scared of anybody.
Really good fighter as well.
The doors. There were people shot at him on the doors, and he laughed at them. They were shooting at him on the doors. A gang in Birmingham, and he's just not afraid of anybody. I've known him since he trained with me when he was 16, and he said, Kay was really shocked. He said, I've had a bit of and he runs a really successful gym in Birmingham now. And he said, I'm always trying to make decisions, Bob, about which way to go, what to do. He said, and the red squirrel is telling me what I need to do is this. And because he used to have them when he fought. I said, what's the squirrel telling you? And he's got these, and these are how he represents his internal voices: red squirrel, gray squirrel. And I fucked it up for him. I said, what about the badger? What do you mean the badger? I said, the badger that stands between the two as an arbitrator, like a referee between. And he went,
always listen to the badger.
He says, there's no fucking badger, Bob. There's no fucking badger. That's so funny. I have got some strange students. Yeah.
I heard recently that he made a third one, Bob, a black squirrel. So I don't know.
Black squirrel. That's the badger. It's been replaced. Yeah. He's replaced it.
They're Russian squirrels. The Russian squirrels are black.
Oh, there. Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they're nasty.
They're nasty squirrels, right?
There's a story in Moscow about how one particularly bad winter, when it was very tough and they were all starving, this woman went to walk her dog in the park, and a pack of black squirrels attacked it, killed it, and ate it.
Oh, what? Wow.
Now it might be an urban myth, but a lot of people believe it.
Have you heard about these packs of wild chihuahuas in Mexico that escaped from Chihuahua farm? And they formed these enormous groups of chihuahuas that terrorize cities because they were found. People are scared of them, like a pack of 20, 30 chihuahuas in the town.
This sounds like a great horror, like a great animal horror movie.
Yeah, it's like the killer rabbit in Monty Python. It's like the killer rabbit in Holy Grail.
Yeah, right, the killing rabbit.
Killer rabbit. Got nicely pointy teeth. You don't want to go in there. He's fucking got nice pointy teeth.
Looking at us, he's looking at us and that's such a good movie, Bob.
Bring forth the holy hand grenade.
The holy hand grenade of Antioch. Yeah.
And the Knights of St. Neat. The Knights of
St. Neat. Yeah.
The Shrubbery. Yeah.
A great film. And historically accurate.
Especially if the fight against the Black Knight, which
absolutely, yeah.
Oh, that is just a flesh wound. That's
it's but a flesh wound.
It's just a flesh wound. Come here, I bite you in the nuts.
Oh, there's John Cleese.
It's like some.
I think it's John Cleese.
Some people.
Black Knight. Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. Some people in HEMA are like that when you do sparring with them. Some people in HEMA are like that. You know, like you hit them solid in the face, and they, it's nothing. You know, my breastbone would stop it. You know, I thrust you in the chest. Yeah, my breastbone would stop it. So some people in HEMA are like that. So there's always an afterblow. Yeah, we're cutting your bubbles out. Yeah, but still afterblow. You know, it's still going because that's a big problem in HEMA sometimes, especially when it comes to tournaments. In my opinion,
it's a very easily solved problem.
New equipment.
Yeah,
it's a very easily solved problem.
Yeah, just take the equipment off and have sharps.
Yeah. Take the pads off and go to sharps.
Yeah. That's one possibility. Or you do what we do, that you use protective equipment, but not too much. So it still has to hurt a little bit. So people have respect. Yeah. Even if it's a synthetic waster, not a steel weapon. So people need to have respect of the weapon still. So that was one thing I was doing when we were doing a little bit of work with the Dirk. So we were training all the disarm things and little things we do with a Highland Dirk. And then it was, taking out the sharp one I have and saying, okay, now imagine someone is standing with this and tries to stab you.
Yeah.
And suddenly, everybody was flinching because it's just a natural reaction, because the other thing, it's an aluminium training tool or stick or something like that. But now the real thing is out, you will flinch because this is really scary. It's a long pointy triangle which can poke nasty holes in your body and you will bleed out. So people like, okay, I would not want to do the technique now.
Have you ever used shock knives?
And the same thing is with broadswords. I mean, no, not yet. I would really like to use them because I think it's interesting. So maybe I find a company who can make a shock dirk, something like that.
I was thinking, yeah. I've used a few shock knives. I've got access to 6 of them, and I've used them at the university actually with some of the guys. And it was Ross, the guy we were talking about previously. I hit him with it, and it gave everybody else leapt out the way because of the shock they got. And Ross went, "Oh yeah, do it again." I was like, "Whoa, crazy bastard!" Yeah, because we trained. We trained with wooden knives, and then I said, "Right," and I pulled out the shock knives, and they didn't know it was a shock knife. It looked like a plastic knife, and I just hit the whole group with it, and they all like, "Oh my god!" So I was chasing them around, and they couldn't do anything then. It adds a certain level of realism.
It feels like a cut, doesn't it, Bob? It feels like an actual cut.
It feels like you're being cut. It actually, it's a pretty, and you can turn the voltage up a little bit as well. A friend of mine in Scotland, up in Ayrshire, he works at doors, and
down in Ayrshire.
Yeah, Ayre's a bit of a shithole as well. It's a rough place.
It's retarded, mate. You know, you were saying about that.
Yeah,
Six fingers.
Yeah, they're pretty retarded in Ayre.
It's banjo country.
Oh man, I was talking to one guy in there, right? I was talking to this guy he had a woman with him, and he introduced me as his sister and his wife. I was like, this guy, like, I was like, yeah, great place, a lot of banjos. And Mark Boyle is the lad's name, and even the other lads in the club can't understand him. His accent is so strong, and he made a shock knife. And God knows he put a transformer in it to up the voltage, and it actually burnt this guy's arm. And he thought it was hilarious. He said, nobody comes near me with this shock knife. So he put a transformer and a couple of capacitors in it. Whoa. Oh, God. So it is possible to make a shock dirk. I think it'd be a great idea.
Yeah. Right. You know, maybe when I have like 50 or more Patreons, maybe then I can afford something like that.
Yeah, well, I'll speak to Mark and see if he can make a shock dirk for you. And a shock tart.
Yeah, I'm quite sure. I think that's it. Oh yeah, with a spike, with shocks, spike. You know, when people come near you.
Yeah. Put a ring.
That's a good idea.
A ring around it and just touch people with it. Yeah.
I've held a claymore.
Yeah, oh man.
I've held it from Ayrshire, from the River Aire.
With a shock broadsword, you can get loads of batteries in the hilt.
Oh no, this was a real one.
Oh right.
From they think it was about 1200. Wow. But it was buried in the River Aire, and they found it and dug it out. It's almost complete. It's like pretty badly damaged, but it's almost complete. Like you can hold it.
Yeah.
And it's incredible because it's so big, so long.
Yeah.
But the blade is like a razor. You pick it up and it just feels so light. You think it's going to be heavy, and then you pick it up and it's so light. And you're like, oh my God, this thing must have been so fast.
Yeah. Is that in
because normally you think it, but they've got it in Glasgow museums have got a warehouse in Nits Hill, and once a month you can book to go in and see them, and it's really worth doing because it's the museum repository, so it's all the things that they don't have space to put on display.
Yeah.
And when you go, it'll be a small group of like 10 people, and they'll let you handle things and mess about. You can literally just go and look at everything. If there's something you're really interested in, you can play about with it. It's really worth it'd be even worth the drive up from Birmingham. Like,
well, I go to Ayre. I mean, once the COVID thing's finished, I'll be up in Ayre anyway, because I've got a club. I've got a Thai boxing club in Ayre. So
Thai boxing in
Ayre. I've got one in Paisley as well in Glasgow. So I've got a bunch of lads in Paisley.
Paisley is not in Glasgow. Paisley was there before Glasgow.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, Paisley's the biggest town in Scotland.
Yeah, it's a rough.
Who are you doing at Paisley with?
It's rough, isn't it? I've got.
Who are you? That's my town.
A guy called Matt McLachlan.
Who are you?
A guy called Matt McLachlan.
I know Matt McLachlan.
It's a good name.
Tell them you know Zane.
Honestly, you know Matt McLachlan.
Next time you see them, tell them you know me, mate.
No, seriously. The jiu-jitsu guy.
That's Paisley's my town.
Paisley Academy. There's John McKean.
Yeah, I know Paisley Academy.
Yeah, there's John McKean, and of course there's Matt McLachlan. Well, Matt's an instructor.
Yeah, I've known them for years, mate.
I qualified them as Thai boxing instructors back in the day.
Oh, right.
I was up there all the time.
I've known them for about 15 years.
They needed Geordie to teach him how to fight, basically.
Yeah, that's because they stay in the posh bit of Paisley. I tell you what, you come down the wrong end of Paisley.
Do you know Newton Men's? I've got
exactly what I said. The posh end of Paisley.
Yeah, that's it. Newton Men's. Yeah. God, there's a small world there.
Nice up there. That's where the football players live.
Yeah. How do we know? How come we've never met?
I don't know. It's a bit strange, man.
It's weird. It's weird.
I went to a Krav Maga seminar in Newton Mearns once.
Well, somebody has to. Yeah.
You don't know a guy called Robert Bennett, do you?
Who?
Robert Bennett.
No, I don't know.
Right.
No. I don't really.
I'm going to have to add you on Facebook and we'll see how many mutual friends we got.
Yeah. Well, I sent you a message, didn't I, on Facebook Messenger? So I didn't want to just apply to be your friend because you might have fucking hated me. But so yeah, I'll click on your friends and then we'll see how many people we know each. I bet we know loads by the sounds of it, Zane. It's crazy, absolutely crazy that we got. I can't believe we know Matt McLachlan as well. I mean, that's mad.
Yeah.
He's a funny guy. Like
Paisley's a small town. Paisley's a small town. Like you know everyone who's there, man.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because they do a lot of the taekwondo and that.
That's right. Yeah, but I don't talk about that, please. We don't talk about that.
Yeah, they do.
Not this flicky nonsense. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's very pretty.
I almost. They moved gym a lot, but they had a really good building for a gym down near St Mirren Park. And I nearly took that over when they left.
Was that the one by the airport?
It's not far from the airport.
Yeah, it's not far, is it?
Literally about 5-minute drive. You literally just come off the motorway. Were they there when it came up?
It was about 6,000 square feet or something. It's huge.
Yeah, it was it was a proper industrial unit.
Yeah, I remember.
I nearly got that for my wrestling club when they left.
Bloody hell!
But the guy that owned it was a bit.
Yeah, him and John McKean nearly lost their houses over it, didn't they?
Well, I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah,
I know there was a lot of problems, and I went in to take it over for my wrestling club, but the guy that owned it was well dodgy, man.
Yeah, they had a lot of problems with that, and they moved to different premises. I think it finished their friendship, him and John McKean.
Yeah, because I noticed they split because John McLean's got the little place in the centre of Paisley now.
That's right, he has, yeah.
And, but it's
crazy,
like they've always struggled to get the numbers in, and it's really weird because Paisley's a big town. There's 80,000 people.
Yeah,
and
I know.
Yet they struggle to support like even a small town. The only time I ever trained with them was when. Oh no! It's a different one. The one by the airport.
Right.
The one I'm talking of, literally on the other side of the airport. They were down next to the. They had the gym before that by the soccer center.
Oh yeah.
That's even closer to the airport on the other side.
So that was
that's the one you probably went to.
Yeah, but that's the one I went to.
Because they were doing BJJ for a while as well.
Right. Yeah.
So they were the only place in Paisley that was doing BJJ. So I used to train BJJ with them for a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was just really sad because it's just so difficult to get anything going in Paisley. It's really weird. It's a big town. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, you would think it would be easy, you know.
Nobody wants to do anything.
You guys should do a podcast as well. Like Bob, you should do a podcast with Zane about this wrestling.
Yeah, I've got to do a podcast with you, Zane.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to see something about Highland Wrestling.
Yeah, we'll set that up, Zane. We'll do a podcast if you want to.
Yeah, cool, man.
I mean, I at the moment, it's become my podcast is now the Heiko Show. It's called. It's like,
really good.
Is there anybody? It's like people are going. Is there anybody else? No, your podcasts are getting a good response, Heiko, from my students. They're saying, "Oh, that German guy's really interesting." So I'm getting a lot of people interested in swords now because of you.
That makes me happy. That makes me really happy, and I have to say, it's interesting. The Catalan Society program. I get so many requests for people who want to train. And it's not only requests for the online program, the people actually really train. So they're sending in reports.
Yeah.
So I think we are kind of the fastest growing online program in historical swordsmanship.
Well, you know
and this is amazing. I mean,
you know the guy you're mentoring at the minute?
Sorry?
Dennis Mulholland.
Yeah, yeah. He's quite new. Yeah.
He just started a few weeks ago. He's trained with
Right,
all those guys.
yeah.
He's from Paisley.
He's from Paisley.
Lad.
Okay.
Yeah. He knows.
That's quite cool.
I've done judo with Dennis since, oh my God, literally like 15, 16 years. But
that's interesting. The world is really small, yeah.
And everything comes back to Paisley. Whatever we do, it comes back to one of these little.
It does.
Yeah.
Don't tell him, but I still owe him £3.
Yeah. I mean, Paisley is also the home of fencing master Archibald McGregor.
Yeah.
There you go.
So keep that in mind.
There you go. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that when Zane and me, when we met online, and he was contacting me about Highland wrestling, or if we in Germany are interested in Highland wrestling, that's where the contact came. And then we were chatting, and he was talking. He's from Paisley, and I said, "Oh, that's great. You have the famous fencing master Archibald McGregor in Paisley." I didn't know that. Yeah, so it was really interesting. You know, like a German guy tells him in Paisley that they had a fencing master in their hometown who was, you know, publishing his lectures on the art of defense in 1791.
Yeah,
it's really amazing. I mean, what I think it's crazy how many people all over the world are training now in the Kettering Society online program, and we have now we have two new guys. I think they are from the Philippines, and they trained Filipino martial arts. I assume for a very long time, and now they're training Highland broadsword, and you see their movements are already really good, so they're picking up all the techniques quite quickly. And I also have many students in the online program who are not on Facebook, who are not in the Facebook group, so they have contact with me with email. So they're sending the training reports with email. Yeah. There's also, for example, a training group in Indonesia. So we have even people in Indonesia training in the Kettering Society.
Wow!
I mean, this is amazing. I think we are the biggest non-profit HEMA community or organization out there. Yeah, and I know it's not long ago, like a year or two, one guy was asking in a Facebook HEMA group. I think it was HEMA Alliance or something like that. He was asking about the Kettering Society, if it still exists, you know? And I was typing like, yeah, we are well and alive. We are doing a lot of stuff, and we are growing, you know, and we are growing really a lot. And I think, I mean, at the moment this is not possible, but I think I really dream of an international Kettering Society gathering.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
But we already had Jay in Canada. He already organized, I think, last year kind of a North American Kettering Society gathering, and I would really love. I said, okay, we really have to do a Kettering Society gathering Europe edition, something like that, you know. Yeah.
Somewhere
that would be
like
great.
Somewhere central, like that would be.
Birmingham.
You should do it when
something central like Birmingham, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, it would be great to have such a gathering in the homeland of the Highland broadsword.
Well, yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like in Scotland.
Yes.
But of course, maybe, you know, maybe the people should go where the president is. So,
or in between both, between there and where the president is, which is exactly in Ghent.
So,
okay, for that event, we obviously, for such an event in Ghent, we obviously have the correct nightlife,
we have the correct
entertainment.
Yeah, Donald McBane.
Yeah, McBane was there. McBane was in Ghent. It's nice story.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
You're looking at the archives, aren't you? Haven't you been
looking at the archive to find out where he lived, and if he started a school that had some influence on the still existing fencing school, because the fencing school in Ghent is apparently the oldest one in Europe. That's what they claim. It's a very old one. And during the time that McBane was there, the fencing club was temporarily closed for a few years. So he was competing with them. And if he set up any other school, it's in the archives, they told me. So I'm looking through these archives, trying to find any place or what he did and how he influenced whatever when he was there, because he was there for several years. So it was quite an influence and quite an interesting thing that he had. So, and I found out where they were stationed with their soldiers and army, and where they lived as well, which was quite interesting, because when they dug up these old houses of these soldiers, in one of them they found a corpse under the floor. And it was not one of the soldiers, it was from another soldier that somebody had killed and just buried under his floor in one of these places. So quite some interesting things in there. So it's, but he has some stories of visiting the castle and staying in Ghent, where he really liked it, set up his school and ran a brothel like everywhere. But there's some traces of this I want to check. So yeah.
Wow. You need to keep digging. Yeah. You need to keep digging, Kay.
I keep digging. The problem is he had many names, and I wonder, I keep trying to find out under which name he would be registered, because all of these soldiers, they had a registration in a certain place, and there were quite some Scottish there at that point. So I wonder if there's, so I'm still looking, but there's quite a lot of archives that, and people are helpful, which is nice.
So what you can do, Kay, you can watch out for a lot of names which are sounding similar to Donald McBane, because when we look at newspaper reports about his prize fights, very often the name was not Donald McBane, so for example Daniel Bain, but written differently. So they often switched the names. I don't know for what reason. Sometimes the name was close to the original name, but it switched. Sorry?
Probably because he was wanted by the police.
Maybe.
But when he was stationed in Ghent, it's very well archived, this period, because it was the strongest winter in history in that city. So it was very, very tough. While he described in his book, he had a great time. So he must have had some very lucrative business while other people were really suffering for food. So and that period is very well archived. Also conflicts between people in villages and stuff and in areas, because they moved quite a lot. So it's all, there's lots of little stories, there's newspapers. I'm going through all of that. I'm sure I'll find it. People in the archive, they say there must be something, at least, because they wrote everything down at that time. So yeah. Probably something there. Yeah.
So from my experience, Kay, when I was researching the fencing master who lived here in Germany, so he was a fencing master for the military saber in the early 19th century. And the guy I'm working together with on this research project, he said to me, yeah, maybe you can go to the city archives. And I went there, and they said, yeah, okay, we have 2 entries here about said fencing master. And we also have his original fencing book. And I was amazed, because the thing is, this fencing book was printed in my hometown. And the years before, people researching it for HEMA were going like, yeah, there's an example, and a collector has one example in the USA, and then there's one example in the university somewhere in Sweden. And it was going all around the world. And all the time, since the 1940s, I think, the original was in the archives of the city where it was printed, just around the corner. There was like, yeah, here we have his fencing book. You can have a look. And then I was just digging in some newspaper articles in the archives from around the time when his fencing book was published, and I found immediately, quite quickly, like 3 or 4 different articles where he was mentioned, or where he was doing some advertising for his fencing school. Yeah. So I'm pretty
stopped. I must have I was going to the chat box and I must have clicked on it. It's okay, it's back on again.
Just tell him the truth. You're boring, Heiko. You're boring.
No, I was
tell him the truth.
Heiko's worried because he wants He wants to get everything you're saying, Zane, and use it against you at some point in the future in a court of law.
No. But I found especially interesting what Kay was talking about McBane and Gen, and it would be great to have this online, but now it's lost, and I don't want to blame anybody, but it's your fault, Bob. Definitely.
It's a nice little piece of his history that would be really nice if we can find something about it, because it's like a little gap in there. I mean, there's something in the book that would be nice to have some actual historical records to confirm some of these things. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Can I just? I'm sorry about this, guys. I'm gonna have to go now.
Okay.
Right. So what I'll do, Heiko, can I make you the host?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
I'm sorry about this. I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've got I'm running an online meditation retreat. All day. All right. Okay, Zane. Hey,
you could have lied. You could have said it with anything.
Yeah. Well, I'm just a simple. Okay, sorry. Tomorrow I've got a bare knuckle fight and I've got to get up. I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to
fight the bear man.
To run 40 mile and then punch glass. And no,
I'll be in the car. I'll be in the car tomorrow, so Bob, I can't join the meditation stuff. So I'll be driving the whole day, unless I do it during driving, but I don't think that's advisable.
No, you can't do that. No, that'd be crazy.
zoning out on the autobahn.
Right. So I don't really want to go, but I've got to go now. I've got certain things to do, and I've got to do them online with my laptop. So it's great to see you guys. Nice to meet you, Zane.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, man.
Whatever Heiko says about you, I've forgotten now, mate. You're a really nice guy.
I can't believe we haven't already met.
Heiko, I'll speak to you in the week about the next podcast, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
Setting this up again as well.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. It's a great idea.
And by the way, my compliments about the Olde Chopping Block logo you made out of the James Fickford Trail. It's really awesome. I really love it. I'm thinking about making my profile picture if you allow me to do that.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
Because it's awesome.
Kay thought it was a historical drawing.
I thought it was real. We can put it on a T-shirt, Bob. It's so
okay.
T-shirt.
I mean, I do.
Yeah, right. Well, we should definitely make T-shirts. Yeah.
Like make a T-shirt.
Okay, right. Well,
okay. So,
shall I sort that out?
So I've
got a friend who's got a T-shirt company, so you can do them. Shall I get a few of them made up?
Great. Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
I'll sort that out.
So you're making me the hot.
So I'll make you the host.
You're making me the host. Okay. This is a lot of responsibility, but I know. I'm now host. Zoom. Okay. So recording is on.
Yeah, it's still on. Yeah. Have you got?
Okay, good. So Okay, I still have some time left. So just question when the session is over, I just click
press leave,
ending, stopping, whatever.
Yeah, the bottom right hand corner it'll say leave, and then it'll say close meeting. So you leave, close meeting, and that's it.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
Is that all right, Heiko? Yeah. Okay. I'll speak to you soon.
I think I can do it.
Sadly, I'll have to make you a friend on Facebook. And let's keep in touch. And Heiko, I'll speak to you soon. Yeah.
Cheers, Bob.
Yeah,
thanks,
see you.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks very much.
Cheers.
That was cool.
So
you're the host now.
Interesting. That's a lot of responsibility. Yeah, I know. But though my first, I don't know how much time I have left, but I still have, I think, 20 minutes left, so we can still have a drink and talk a little bit. So now I am the host. The first thing I demand is that someone drinks something because obviously this is a pub.
And what are you drinking, Heiko?
Water.
Yeah. By the way,
what the fuck are you drinking?
What I'm drinking. This is. This. Can you see this?
What?
Yeah. This is.
Küstennebel. Nebel is like mist, right?
Yeah. This is translated into.
Ist das ein guter Trink für die Mädchen?
Absolutely, yeah. Küstennebel is translated into coastal fog. So,
yeah, sea fog.
Yeah, coastal fog, and it's I told you about it. It's a drink from Eckernförde, which is in Schleswig-Holstein, up north on the Baltic Sea, and this is where I was stationed during my. Yeah, this was where I was stationed during my military service. I told you, Zane, about it, and this was what we were supposed to drink during our military service, because it's with what is this called? Anise. Is this the word in English? Anise. Yeah.
Absinthe?
Yeah, a little bit like absinthe, a little bit like ouzo or raki. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's the stuff that tastes like toothpaste a little bit, but I like it anyway. So
did you put water in it?
No.
Yes.
It's already finished like this, so it already has this milky kind of look. You know, yeah. It looks a little bit like it has a little bit the color of semen.
Semen love the semen.
Yeah, semen love the semen, right? But it tastes better. Don't ask me why I know this. Cheers.
So you rinse the sex away.
So how did you meet, Zane and Heiko? How did you meet?
When I recall it correctly, then Zane was just approaching me on Facebook over my official page, I think, asking me about where we are located in Germany and if we are interested in Highland wrestling. Right? This is how it started.
Yeah.
This is correct, Zane? Do I recall it correctly? Yeah, right.
I don't remember, Heiko. I think did you speak to somebody in Scotland about the Highland wrestling?
No.
I think somebody might have told me. Oh, I don't remember.
I can't remember, but we got it
very drunk.
Yeah. Long story short, we met over Facebook, just over Facebook, and get into contact, and we're exchanging about Highland wrestling, about Highland broadsword and everything. And then we came up with the idea, and I told Zane that we always wanted to train Highland wrestling, and this is where it started. And as said before, in 2017, we managed to get Zane over here to Germany, which was great for a seminar. And we had a Highland wrestling seminar with some bouts in the end.
Cool.
And yeah, since then I tried to train what Zane showed to us, and tried my very best to spread the gospel. So yeah, this is where it started. Yeah. Yeah, this was a really great seminar we had. Yeah,
it's really fun.
Yeah,
it was. And if when we have the chance with all the pandemic situation and everything, I hope we soon will have the chance to maybe make a bigger seminar next year or something like that. By the way, I spoke to Zane. I spoke to I don't know what his name is, or I cannot spell it. The Irish guy who is doing the collar and elbow wrestling. He lives here in Germany. I'm in contact with him.
He lives there in Germany.
Yeah. He lives here in Germany.
Because he posted.
Yeah, he lives
today.
He
posted.
lives.
I've wrestled Gunnar, the guy that was teaching in Backhold.
Yeah, right. He posted that in the Highland Wrestling Germany group. Right. Yeah.
He's quite high up in the Icelandic Glima, and he's a really nice guy. He's massive though, mate. He's literally if I'm stood there, he stands like that.
Okay.
So yeah, he must be what,
big Viking.
160 kilos.
Yeah, right. And I am in contact with him, and we came up with the idea that once we have the possibility to plan in this crazy situation at the moment, that we maybe could make, like, because we have also contacts, so we could make like a big folk wrestling event with backhold wrestling, with you doing backhold wrestling, and he would showing his attempt on collar and elbow wrestling, which would be great. Having having an Irish Scottish folk wrestling seminar on German ground.
And we can get, if we were going to make it folk wrestling, we could invite the Iceland people if we look at their calendar and when they're over.
Wow.
And the Bretons, some of the Bretons would come, and the run as well.
Really unique.
It's really
that's a unique thing.
It's really interesting because the different styles of wrestling really focus on different things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So like the Glima is amazing to do because it gives you a little insight into the Vikings. Because in all the depictions, like you see in them, in the films and that, they're portrayed as these really, really fierce warriors who just attack you, right? But their style of wrestling is the most touchy-feely, thinking wrestling out of all the traditional wrestlings that is still alive today, right? Their style of wrestling is closest to dancing. Yeah. And it's just really incredible. Like, so when their wrestling starts, you can't just start fighting, right? So you have to get into a pattern before you can start fighting. So the whole point of their wrestling is to teach you pattern recognition and then how to win the fight by breaking the pattern. Right? Which is like, they teach the same thing in boxing, but in boxing it's considered really, really advanced. But in their wrestling, they start from the very beginning. So you take a hold of each other and you have to take a hold with no strength at all, right? You can't be putting any pressure on on the other person. You have to be completely relaxed, and you have to start doing like this dance step together where your weight's going forward to them, back to you, forward to them, back to you. And you start walking around in a circle. And the referee will not say go until he sees that you are both completely relaxed and both completely doing the same step. So he might say go after 10 seconds. He might say go after a minute and a half. And the minute he says go, you keep the pattern, and then the first one to break it and get the throw. But it's really interesting.
In this about Icelandic Glima, I have one question. Did I understand it correctly that they have kind of two major styles of Glima? So they can do this kind of where they have this belt or trouser wrestling where they grip something.
It's a sword belt. It's a sword belt. It's a belt.
Okay.
It's a sword belt.
Yeah.
So it's a belt.
Okay. Yeah.
On one side has a loop.
Yeah.
So you take the belt on one hand and then lower on the leg on the hoop with the other one.
Okay. So it's like a sword belt. Yeah.
The reason they're joined with the Scottish backhold is because if they don't have the belts, then they do backhold like the Scots.
Okay. So backhold is a style in Icelandic Glima too, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then I didn't understand it correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have Glima just means to fight in Viking. I think it's something like the struggle or that. Yeah. But then you know that crazy guy Lars
Enochson. Yeah.
He's a fucking lunatic, man. But it's interesting what he's done, and it's good how he's starting to try and get Glima going. Yeah. But he's trying to reconstruct the combat Glima rather than the sport Glima. And the combat Glima died out pretty much completely. So it's only really it's like with the Scottish backhold. In Scotland, the wrestling sport survived, but the whole integrated system with the swords and the wrestling didn't. It's the same with the Gleamer. The sport wrestling survived, but the integrated with the other martial arts didn't. Yeah.
I think Enochson's approach is quite interesting. Though I really like what he is doing. I know that historically, some people say, okay, there are some spooky things what he is doing, but but from a martial point, I kind of like what he is doing, and he also what I find interesting, he has a translation and interpretation of I think Norwegian wrestling book from the 19th century. I don't know the author, but it's interesting. There is kind of this Swedish gymnastics school in the 19th century, which teaches this kind of Swedish gymnastics for your health, but also military gymnastics.
Yeah, I've got a video of them doing Gleamer from like 1920s, of them doing the Gleamer wrestling on a ship. But do you know what I like about Lars the most?
Yeah, what?
I've seen him take so much abuse, and he just doesn't care.
Yeah,
he just says, "Okay."
I mean,
I've seen people try and rip him apart, and he's just gone, "Okay, whatever, you don't like it," and just go. I've actually met him. He brings the Highland Games. He gave me one of his books. It's really interesting.
Yeah. But, he seems like he seems like a really relaxed guy. I had a little bit of contact with him over Facebook, and he's also part of the Highland Wrestling Germany group. And
he's a really good guy to have a beer with.
Yeah. He seems like a really nice. Yeah,
I thought one of his he brought some wrestlers over to the Highland Games once, and it is the best moment ever at the Highland Games, because I was stood there waiting, and they were like, "All right, now Zane's going to be fighting a Swedish fighter whose name is Thor." Everyone was like, "Who the fuck's Thor?" Everyone's turning around looking, and then from in the stand, this guy just fucking unfolded himself, and he was about 6'7", blonde hair, like down to his shoulders, like everyone, all the girls nearly fainted, man. And then he just walks out onto the thing, and everyone's like, "That's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen."
You were the Hulk.
I'll never have beautiful hair. I'll never be called Thor.
You were the Hulk against him then. You were like in the scene between Thor and the Hulk. You were the Hulk.
Yeah. And unfortunately for him, he had actually never done Scottish backhold wrestling before, and had never done sport Gleamer. He had only ever done like the jiu-jitsu Gleamer that Lars does. So it was an amazing story up until the point the fight started. But he was a really nice guy as well, man. He was fantastic. Like, do you know what I mean? But
I think it's great that European folk wrestling, or folk wrestling in general, is so much connected worldwide, because you have so many folk wrestling styles all over the world. The Mongols and in Iran and even in China and elsewhere. Yeah, in Africa too.
No, I have to say the championships in Brittany was getting much bigger, but they're not inviting the Austrians back.
Why is that?
The Austrians got very, very angry that there were African wrestlers there.
Oh, really?
And the way they expressed it was not in acceptable language.
Okay, this is really, really sad. Yeah,
that's sad.
I mean, it was, yes. I mean, everybody was very sad.
Yeah, I really like the traditional style of Austrian wrestling, which they are doing with the white shirts and the white, Rangeln, right, and Rangeln, it's still a term used in German language. Rangeln, it's still, or Rangelei, it's still a term used to describe a newspaper article. So, for example, if two people have an argument about wearing a face mask at the moment because of the pandemic, and someone wants not to, and they might start to push each other and shove each other. They don't really fight, and then this is called a Rangelei or Rangeln in German language. Yeah, so I like the style, and it was not only done in Austria, it was also done in southern Germany. So there still are clubs in Germany, in Bavaria, who are doing this Rangeln, but they are not as big as, and I think there are only one or two clubs still doing it.
We need to get in touch with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's one small documentary about the Rangeln club somewhere in Bavaria, and I think what I really liked, there are some videos from La Strumpa in Sardinia, the backhold wrestling in Sardinia, what you told me about, and there's a clip of some tournament where backhold wrestlers from Sardinia, from Iceland, from Scotland, and also from Africa met for a tournament.
That would be Mike. That would be. You see the older guy called Mike. We've got to get Mike over to the next.
Michael Phillips.
Brilliant.
Michael Phillips. He's a great guy. And I think what's his name? Fraser Hirsch and Max Frayne, they were also there. Those are two young guys in Scotland, backhold wrestling guys, Max. And they were also saying, and I really like this because I said, I mean, it's in Sardinia. There's Sardinian backhold wrestling, African wrestling, Icelandic wrestling, Scottish wrestling. That's awesome. People meeting there, wrestling together, no matter where you come from. I mean, this is awesome. I really like it, because so this really makes me sad hearing that the Austrians are not allowed to join this one tournament you mentioned anymore, because
it made me sad as well. It made me sad as well, because I'd told everyone to bloody invite them. So I told everybody to invite them, and then they came there and were really racist.
That's unusual. That's anachronistic. It's out of time. It doesn't really. It's an anachronistic thing. I was wondering about the wrestling. Do you know that Thai boxing has a clinch thing? Which
I've seen the guy Steve Papp the guy Steve Papp that I used to train with was a specialist in the throws.
Yeah. Because it's interesting, because the clinch is about getting each other out of balance, and if you can create a gap or get each other out of balance, you kind of score psychologically, and you can open up for a knee. But the main thing is trying to subtly get the other out of balance. But there is kind of a grip as well. Bob can tell you there's a grip which is under the arms as well to try and grip the other one. So there's some lower grips. Most of it is up around the head and the arms to try and get the other one out of balance. It's quite interesting.
There's throws in old Thai boxing as well.
Yeah. Quite big ones as well.
Actual throws, and 3 of the throws are the same as in Scottish backhold, and you don't get any points for them in Thai boxing. So the fighters used to do them, but you wouldn't get points. You just get show off points. Sorry, I need to grab some beer.
Psychologically, it's helping you conquer the other one, because if he gets thrown, it really puts him down, and he gets really it does get him out of balance. So it gives you a better impression as well. So the throw is very, and Bob's really good at this. He teaches these throws.
Standing back up off the canvas is always a bad feeling.
But it's also one of defiance. Yes.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons why, one of the many reasons why I'm interested in backhold wrestling, because I mean I'm just a hobby wrestler. I'm a wrestling enthusiast, so I would not say I'm really good at wrestling. I just like it. I did like 2 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I trained in a little bit of self-defense with a guy who had a wrestling background, so he was very wrestling oriented in his kind of self-defense system. And of course now with Zane, what I really like is the connection that you can see of Highland wrestling with the broadsword manuals, because many of the techniques in close quarter combat with a Highland broadsword have a connection to the wrestling. So for example, you have the back heel in Highland wrestling, and you have the back heel as a throwing technique in the old form of pugilism, of the old boxing. And you also have a back heel technique in Highland broadsword. So for example, Thomas Mathewson in 1805, he describes how to use a back heel. So if you have a broadsword and you parry with an outside guard, and you come close, then you enclose and grab the arm or the basket hilt of your opponent, and then you step in and make this back heel technique, so he lands on his back.
Out of balance.
Yeah, right. It's throwing out of balance, and this is what I like about, because you mentioned the Muay Thai takedowns. I really like when I see, not only in Thai boxing but also in mixed martial arts, when you see someone using from a clinch position this kind of Muay Thai throws with legs, because I think it's also quite connected to the weapon combat. Because when you have weapon combat, your right hand, if you're right-handed, your right hand is connected to the sword, and your left hand have to, take control of the weapon of the opponent. And then what is left to throw? You have your legs, so you have to work with your legs. So all these leg throws, which you have in backhold wrestling because of the tight grip, and similar to that also in Muay Thai, when you have the Thai clinch and you're doing these leg throws and trips and whatnot, I think it's also quite connected to the weapon fight, because when weapon fight, your weapon is always connected, and you have one hand grabbing the opponent with one hand, which still holds your old weapon. So I find this really interesting with the Thai clinch too.
Yeah, it's quite amazing, and there's some very simple techniques in the Thai clinch where you can actually only just use the arms to get somebody completely out of balance, and it's quite interesting if you do it in the right way, in the right movement. It's just impressive how far you can throw someone with very little energy. It's just, and I guess in wrestling that's even more, but in Thai clinch it's so very subtle. So when you were describing the Viking wrestling, this subtle breaking the pattern, it's very typical for Thai clinching as well. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know if you, of course you grab the head, but I don't know if in swords, when you're really controlling command, you get really close, whether there's a way to try and also grab also the head of the opponent as well, or is it impossible, or is it not in there? Because if you get the head, you can control the entire body as well. This
the primary target would be, especially when you have a one-handed sword like the Highland broadsword, the primary target is to control the sword arm. So you always control on the elbow or above the elbow with your free hands. But then it's important that you not only control this arm getting into a struggle, but that at the same time you push them down to turn their spine. And this is something my self-defense teacher from back then told me. He was always about the spine, and now we have where the head is turned, the body follows. Okay, so and interestingly, I have one short clip of one of my former students. He's training now with the Doc Brothers, I think, but he was also training broadsword with us for some time. And we did some enclosing and commanding with the Highland broadsword, and he naturally did this kind of parry with a high inside guard, going in like with a Turkish disarm, but instead of grabbing the opponent's arm over the elbow, he was going behind his head and pulling him back to throw him down. So this is not written down in any historical broadsword manual, but it worked quite well. He was standing behind him, and I think that this is kind of a good idea to get somebody on the upper body off balance while you at the same time you are blocking his lower limbs, so the legs, with your own legs. And this is something we see often in Highland broadsword manuals, that you have your own knee behind the knee of your opponent, and
over,
with a slight, with a slight turn, you can push him over.
Which is the twist over knee in backhold wrestling.
Right, twist over knee, the same thing like you have in broadsword. Yeah. That's interesting. This connection, and I think back then it's this.
What's super interesting? What's super interesting is that exists because of the link between backhold wrestling and the sword fighting. Because every other style of wrestling forgets the twist over knee and goes for the full foot hook.
I see.
Right. So the only style of wrestling I've ever done that focuses on that twist over knee, on putting the knee in just the right position to make them fall, is backhold wrestling.
Yeah.
The others all go for the much bigger reap and pull the foot out the way. Yeah.
You have this, for example, in I think Captain G. Sinclair's anti-pugilism manual of 1719, where it describes when you
punched in the face.
It's interesting. He I think the first edition he published it anonymous, so without his name, and then I think it was called anti-pugilism, and you have the picture of a gentleman with his walking stick thrusting a ruffian into his solar plexus to stop him. And the ruffian is like, having a boxing guard. So it was called anti-pugilism because Sinclair pointed out that his system is not only to be used on the field or in a duel of honor, but also for self-defense when you have nothing but a walking stick. So he's describing his system as being an all-round system for everything. Yeah.
I need to get a walking stick.
I would not say that. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm getting old enough.
I in my free time, I'm not only doing Highland broadsword and archery. I'm also kind of a hiker, so I always have a love for walking sticks because they are an important thing. I mean, when back then, like nearly 20 years ago, my wife and I we were hiking on the Camino de Santiago in northern Spain. The old pilgrim pass. We were hiking, and I was happy that I had my hiking staff. It was not only a walking aid for this trip. When you're going uphill and downhill and whatnot, you are happy to have a stick to support you when you're walking. It's not just decoration; it really has a purpose. But then we had two occasions when I actually had to use this staff as a weapon. Really? So the first situation was we were walking down. We're walking at the side of the main street where the cars are driving, and there was a big house with a big yard, and we were talking quite loudly and were laughing like loudly, and then we heard some dogs barking, and we were passing the house. And 3 dogs were coming out. The gate was open, so the gate was not closed. And 3 dogs were running out, snarling and barking and looking quite aggressive and running behind us. And we had our big backpack, so running away was not an option. And I grabbed my pepper spray. I had pepper spray with me because the travel guide told us that in northern Spain you have a lot of rogue dogs, striding around, and most of the dogs we met, they were afraid of humans, so they were avoiding us, or sometimes they were coming and wanted to be cuddled. So poor creatures who wanted to have a human cuddling them for some minutes. But these dogs were guard dogs, and they were quite aggressive, and I was turning around towards their dogs and raising my hiking staff ready and having my pepper spray here, and the dogs were backing up immediately, which really made me sad because I realized these 3 dogs, they knew the picture of a human raising a stick. They knew a human raising the stick to hit them, and it was kind of okay. I could use the staff to hit them, but it's sad on the other hand because the poor creatures need it. And the second situation, yeah, right. And the second situation was that we were going through kind of a mountain area, and immediately from one second to the other, I saw my wife having a lot of black bees on her. They were in their hair, they were on the backpack, and like mountain bees, you know, aggressive North Spanish mountain bees. They were attacking us, and I was, you know, taking my staff two-handed and waving it around like a two-handed sword, trying to cut down all these bees. You know, I was close to hitting my own wife. and then we were running away because the bees had the upper hand. And later we realized my wife had on her backpack a light blue jacket to dry from you know, washing it from the last night. And she put it on her backpack to dry. And I think this light blue attracted the bees because around us there were a lot of mountain flowers which had a dark purple color, and I think all the black bees were like, "Hey hombre, look at this is a very big flower, look at this blossom, it's so light and blue, it must be very tasty." And they were, you know, like wanting to have this big light blue jacket to drink from it, you know. And yeah, so this fight we actually lost to the bees. So the bees were, I can say, kudos to the bees. They really kicked our asses. Yeah, but the fight against the three dogs, I won it mentally. Yeah.
You won it without a fight, like in the Art of War, which is very, very good. Yeah. I once had to
you're right.
like winning without a fight. It's the best psychological win. Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard anything from Belgium about traditional wrestling?
I was just thinking about it because I remember seeing some old drawings, but from Dutch and German old wrestling.
Belgium had a very, very strong. Oh, is it gone?
I'm still.
I don't think it's still working.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Belgium had a very, very strong Greco-Roman history of wrestling.
Really?
But the Greco-Roman wrestling was made up, they think, by the Napoleonic era. And they think it comes from a style of traditional wrestling that was around Lyon. So because Belgium grabbed on and loved the Greco-Roman so much, because a lot of champions were from Belgium, I've always thought it's probably very likely that Belgium had its own type of traditional wrestling that might have resembled the Greco-Roman.
It's interesting.
Or could possibly have.
Yeah.
But for some reason it took off so strongly in Belgium. And it doesn't sound like they took it on not knowing wrestling.
There must be some kind of records about this as well, but there's no, I should check if there's any traditional wrestling group in Belgium. We've lost kind of our connection with our regional martial arts in Belgium. I don't know why. It's kind of gone.
Because what's extra interesting as well is that the Belge, who are the tribe you're named after, are one of the tribes that was in the United Kingdom as well.
I see.
So if our traditional wrestling is left over from the Celts, then we would expect to see a similar culture in the Belge as in the Brittonic tribes.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean they're mentioned in Caesar's book, the Bello Gallica. It's mentioned that he first starts to talk about the Belgians. He says of all the Celtic tribes, he had most difficulty with the Belgian tribes. It's the first part of his book. And then they're all connected.
Yeah, and then when he crosses over to Britain for the first time, he goes, "Oh bloody hell, it's the Belge again."
Yeah. It's true. Yeah.
But
I mean, they used to come back and forth, right? They used to come back and forth from the UK to through Belgium and Germany to kick the Roman ass all the way to Rome, because Boudica, she went all the way to Rome to fight him.
Yeah.
Well, what's really interesting as well is that in Greco-Roman, they use the Highland wrestling as the tie break. So Highland wrestling is in the Greco-Roman. So if, I mean, this is just total fantasy, circumstantial, right? But if the Belge still had the same kind of wrestling, then that would be very close to the Greco-Roman, which could explain why they took it on so quickly and became such good champions in Europe. But obviously, that's total fantasy circumstantial with absolutely nothing.
I wonder if these different sub-tribes or tribes, if the sub-tribes or tribes did it kind of, it makes you wonder, because in some African tribes they do that. They have friendly fights between each other to loosen conflicts between tribes. They have some kind of boxing matches or things like that. I wonder if the Celtic tribes did the same, have like friendly wrestling.
Exists.
It
still exists. It still exists in Wales. In Wales, it's called the Eisteddfod, but it's lost the physical part of it. So now the competition is all storytelling and songs and dance. But in the old days, it was wrestling as well. It's really interesting.
It's fascinating. Yeah, should write this stuff down in a book, Zane.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, why is this not in one book? Like different types of wrestling and connection to broadsword and all of these things. I mean, people will read that stuff. It's very interesting.
My book of circumstantial possibilities.
Yeah, but people, I mean, it is still nice to think about it, and especially when you talk about subtle similarities between very different styles. And then what's most interesting is the parallels, the systems that work in each and every one of these things, that the basics, the roots, the things that come back and are universally useful in all these martial arts. I think that's really interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Do you know the thing that's touched me most, that I'm just so obsessed with at the minute, is that in Brittany, the Britons, they're Welsh. So, well, they're not anymore. Now they're Britons. But originally they were Welsh. They were Welsh people that moved to Brittany. So it's really strange for me because I'm there. I can't understand Breton, but a lot of the words, I know what they mean, right? Because they're still, a lot of the words are the same as the old Welsh words. But now they've developed new words, and their Welsh has mixed with French. Whereas modern Welsh has developed new words and mixed with English. So now they're quite different. But not long ago, they were the same language. But when I first went there wrestling, I was there and I saw a Breton guy win a competition, and he won a sheep. And he took the sheep by the two legs, put it over his shoulders, stood there and got his photo taken, so proud, with a sheep over his shoulders. I then ended up meeting my wife, going to meet her dad to ask if I could marry her. And I went to a wrestling competition there at a Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and the guy won a sheep. And as soon as he won the sheep, he grabbed the sheep, put it over his shoulders, and proudly took a photograph. And the two of them, from literally 10,000 miles apart, proudly took exactly the same photograph.
I'm happy they didn't do anything else with the sheep. You know? He probably doesn't have a selfie.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. So, guys, we are almost close to midnight now.
Yeah.
So
only for you Europeans.
I don't have to stand up.
Nice to meet you both. Hi.
Yeah, yeah, was my pleasure. Yeah. So I would say we kind of end the first Olde Chopping Block pub. Online meeting. I think this was great. We definitely should repeat it because I think there's a lot of things we still can talk about for like hours. And also, of course, Zane, I highly recommend to you to really catch up with Bob to make a podcast about Highland wrestling and whatnot, because he is a great guy to have a podcast with, and you have a lot of things to tell about Highland wrestling, obviously, and so I would say,
I can't believe that me and Bob have known the same people since I was 18 until now and never met.
It's a small world.
You know what the reason is?
That's crazy, man.
The reason is that the British Islands are just a small, tiny island who cannot really accept how good guinea pigs taste.
What did Germans call this? Ile Affen.
Guinea pigs? No, guinea pigs are mehr. Inselaffen.
What do you call British?
Inselaffen. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Island monkeys. Yeah. But we love you, and I mean, just look. I mean, to wrap things up, just look at this online pub. We have a guy from Belgium at the moment being located in Germany.
Thank you for Johnny Halliday again.
Yeah, we have a guy in Scotland, we have a guy in UK, we have a guy in Germany, and they are chatting about things and having big fun. And I think this is kind of a great thing when you think back that maybe our grandfathers were at war with each other in Europe.
Yeah.
I mean, just think about that.
Stupid was that?
How stupid was that?
Absolutely. It's much better to have good drinks and good food and have a lot of fun together, and in the sense of this kind. Sorry?
Isn't that something McBane said? Didn't you have that as your profile?
Absolutely.
For a while? What
Absolutely. McBane said instead. Right. It was instead of having those desperate conflicts or something like that, it's better to, instead of having those so stupid combats, it's better to have share drinks and drink friends together. So I think this is quite an important message McBane puts on purpose on the end of his manual.
When I read that on your Facebook, that was one of the best things I'd ever heard.
Yeah, it was
so right.
Absolutely. I love this quote, and in the sense of Donald McBane, I would say cheers to you both. Kay, have a safe trip. Have a safe trip back to Belgium tomorrow. And Zane, I expect you to be on a ship quite soon again, right?
No,
or do you have...
maybe not quite soon. No.
Okay.
I'm at the college now for at least 6 weeks.
How long will you have to how long will you have to finish final exams? When do you?
6 weeks.
Okay. I wish you all the best for that. And so have a good night. Stay safe. Thank you very much for joining. It was awesome, and we will do this again for sure. I'm quite sure that Bob wants to do this again. Absolutely. Maybe next time we will have Tom Langhorn from Scotland too, the guy who makes all the Highlander bushcraft series. He's also a great young guy. So maybe we'll have him for other input. He would have joined today, but he has to work this evening for some bushcraft things. So I would say have a good night. Thanks a lot, and see you soon again, my friends.
Take care.
Bye bye.
Cheers, Michael. Bye. Have a good Sunday. Bye, Zane.
Bye.
Cheers.
You too. Bye bye.